Stand up, New York Giant fans. I am really excited. I got Bobby Skinner from Talkin Giants. He's got a great New York Giants podcast. He had me on the show about a month ago, so I figured I'd try to get him on the show. Would love to work with him throughout the season. He's got a great podcast. If you haven't checked it out, I'm sure some of my subs could post his link throughout the stream. Go ahead and check him out on YouTube. Bobby, we got a lot to talk about, my man, but thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. We had you on about a month ago. Glad to get on, the king of YouTube, Chris the Entertainer. So the Entertainer, we'll try and do some entertaining, man.
Let's do some entertaining, man. And yesterday, and let me just say hello to some of my best subs in here, man. What's going on, Rudy? What's going on, Pac? What's going on, Angel, Joel in the chat, Alex Sports, Edward, Baruch, Jawad, Kevin, Nick the Wick. Thank you guys for being here. Jeremy in the chat. So obviously today, the big storyline, what's getting New York Giants fans up and all pumped up is Joe Judge. They had the fumble drill, and Joe Judge goes out there. I think it was Dalvin Tomlinson was spraying him with the hose, and he recovers the fumble. Everybody's going nuts. It's nice to see because I think since Joe Judge has gotten this job, and I think that kind of it's what he's done. He wants everybody to be equal, and I feel like that's what he was doing there. He brought all the coaches to the combine. He takes the names off the back of the jerseys. He takes the names off the front of the helmets. It just seems like he wants it to be a unity. He wants everybody to be one, and I think that's what he was doing there.
Yeah, man. And the biggest thing we've been saying is because he does take some stuff from Belichick and the Patriots, but as long as you're genuine, where Matt Patricia with the Lions, a lot of the stuff they're saying he was, it's just not who he was. He was trying to copy Belichick. But you just get the genuine feel from Joe Judge. And for him to do that, like you said, try and be equals. And, I joked after the scrimmage when he did the challenge and it was failed. I was like, Joe Judge needs to run a lap for that. So I'm glad he's doing it. And I watched the Marcus Golden presser afterwards. And it's the most I've seen a Giants player light up in a press conference in a long time.
Yeah, so one of my subs was in the chat before I went live. What's going on, Nikki? Thanks for popping in. One of my subs was in the chat before I went live, and they told me to check out the press conference on the Giants YouTube channel. And you're right. It seems like Marcus Golden's having a good time. He was a guy that was upset a month ago when he was dealing with the contract. But and the most ironic thing about all this is the media, and we know the New York media likes to stir up things. The media was saying, he's going to lose the players. He's being too rough, the running of the laps. He's too much of a disciplinarian. You can't coach that way. Well, Bobby, it seems like after today, the players seem to be bought in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone is like, well, he has to win. It's well, yeah, that's what football is. If you with Pat Shermer, the big thing last year was he didn't lose the locker room. It's well, he still got fired because they didn't win games. So no duh, if we don't win, it's not going to work. The name of the game is a win. So Joe Judge trying to come in and do his best to win games. I don't care how he does it. He's going to be hard on players, but it's a young roster. Young guys buy into that way more than if this team if he had Eli out there running laps like crazy or doing push-ups or Michael Strahan at the end of his career, those guys, even though Coughlin got the best out of those guys. And that's another thing, not to get off on too of a side tangent. We saw it work with Coughlin. And when you set that standard of balls to the wall, it's a lot easier to dial it back than with Ben McAdoo, where he was, lovey-dovey, everyone's best friend. And then when he tried to get tough on him, they're like, no way, that's not who you are. So I'm all for it. Of course they have to win games or it won't work. If that's what football is winning games.
Of course, that's what creates a winning culture is when you win. So, I do think that he's establishing a culture. And I think a guy like DeAndre Baker wouldn't fit in here at this point in time with the falling asleep in meetings, things like that. I think he wants guys, like he said all along, that want to learn, that want to be taught, that want to play hard. And that kind of brings me to Logan Ryan. And he, of course, has experience with Joe Judge. Joe Judge coached him. He was the assistant special teams coordinator and then the special teams coordinator with the Patriots while he played there. And Judge went on to talk about that today, how he basically fits the description of everything that Judge is looking for in a player. And I thought that Galman and the Giants did an unbelievable job with the market. I mean, Logan Ryan is a guy, and, it came out after the fact that they were monitoring the whole situation for months. And Logan Ryan's a guy that when free agency started, you thought he was going to get 3 years, $27 million, 3 years, $30 million. The Giants ended up getting him for 1 year, $5 million, with the ability for it at $7.5 million. It's a ridiculous contract, and I think he's going to fill in just fine for McKinney until he gets back.
Okay, so you said he's going to fill in for McKinney. Where do you think Ryan's going to play?
I guess he's going to play all over. But the thing with McKinney is I thought McKinney would play all over too. McKinney wouldn't be playing on the outside, though. So maybe Ryan will play more on the outside than we think in terms of the outside corner because Darnay Holmes could be playing that slot, and we'll see what they do with Julian Love. And I guess that's the question. Where is he going to play? Joe Judge was actually asked that today, and he didn't give an answer. He said, I don't know. He's very versatile. We're going to move him around.
I really think they should play him at nickel in a versatile way, not like you just play slot corner like the way we use Grant Haley, where it's like you line up in the slot, that's it. Where they could move him back to safety at times. I did a breakdown earlier today where he started at nickel at the start of play and ended up playing safety and got an interception. But I mean, I was looking at like some of his stats, like playmaker stats. He would have led the Giants in tackles in 2019. He would have been like second in sacks, like top 5 in tackles for like all the playmaker stats. He would have been top of the Giants, and that was at the nickel spot. So I want him at the nickel. I like Darnay Holmes, but I don't want to not put Logan Ryan where he's the best to force Holmes on the field. And I think we could talk about free agency a little bit where that can make more sense.
Yeah,
I like Holmes, but I don't like him enough to where I'm forcing him on the field and putting Ryan in a whole different spot.
So right now, if you were the coach of the Giants, you wouldn't start Darnay Holmes to start the season. You think you'd be more comfortable having Ryan in that slot corner spot, maybe starting Love at the safety and Ballantyne on the outside, something like that?
Yeah. Well, going into camp, I was big Julian Love at corner, but the Giants, they're not allowed to ask, but I did ask one of the beat reporters. I won't say his name so he doesn't get in trouble. But I was like, are they practicing Julian Love at corner at all? They're not playing him at corner at all. I think he could be a corner, but they're not. They view him as a safety. So right now what I would do is obviously Love and Peppers at safety. Bradbury is a cornerback 1. I put Ryan in the slot. And then Ballantyne, I know he struggles, and I like Holmes more than Ballantyne, but I would put Ballantyne as the other outside guy. It would be the weak spot. But my thing is I want to put Ryan where he's best to succeed, and that's nickel. And I don't want to do anything to stop him from succeeding the most.
Interesting. Joseph, man, thanks so much for love. He says, Bobby, prediction on O-line overall for the season. Thank you for the donation, Joe. I appreciate that. And what's going on, Word, man? Thanks for popping in the stream. Sports influencer in the chat. This is going to be a Q&A. We're talking. It's kind of like when I have Bad Dog on. We talk for a bit, sports influencer, and then we get to the chat. But yeah, he wants to know your thoughts on the offensive line overall for the season.
So obviously, I love Andrew Thomas. I was banging on the tail for Andrew Thomas since January. Left tackle. I do think he'll have some struggles. There'll be games where he gives up a sack, maybe even 2, and Giants fans will panic. Don't panic. He's a rookie. And then he'll have games where he dominates. I think Colombo is really going to get the best out of Hernandez, Gates, and Zeitler in the middle. There were so many mental mistakes last year, man. And I don't, Hal Hunter, I'm not a fan of him, but it's hard to say how good of a coach is without actually being there when it's the position coach.
Right.
But from the looks of it, it wasn't good. Like Hernandez was more worried about taking guys' heads off than being in the right spot. I really think Colombo is going to get the best out of those guys. I think the interior of our line is going to be so strong. I'm a huge Nick Gates fan. Every time he played last year, I just got excited watching him after the games. And then Fleming's going to struggle. I'm not a big Cam Fleming fan. I love Matt Parrott. He's a little raw, but that would be I know it might be irresponsible, but I would be fine if they started Matt Parrott week 1. It would be irresponsible, but I would get excited for it. But I think Cam Fleming is going to have some struggles, but he will start week 1.
I'm kind of with you on that. I think the smarter approach, just because you're starting 2 rookie tackles with an inexperienced quarterback in this system in a shortened offseason, no preseason games, I think you're asking for trouble there.
Yeah, it's dangerous, but it just would get me excited.
I agree with you. I would much rather see Matt Parrott out there than Cam Fleming. We know what Cam Fleming is. Cam Fleming is a swing tackle for a reason. He's jumped around the league. We know what he is. He's not going to be anything spectacular. We know that Parrott's got a lot of potential. I think going into the year, though, if it was me, I would start Fleming at least to start the year, maybe ease Parrott in. As far as Gates goes, I think Gates is one of the most important pieces on this team this year, not just for this year, but for the future, because if he can solidify himself as like an average center, even in the NFL, that would go a long way, because going into this season, people are asking me right after the draft, what's going to be our biggest need in 2021 in the draft? And I was saying, obviously, defense with the edge rusher, the coverage linebacker, but also a center. And if Gates could get that job done, you get a guy for a cost-effective deal. I think they extend him for 2 more years at like $3 million a season. I think it would go a long way. So I think Gates is a very important piece. And to what you said, Colombo's been really encouraged by him. He said nothing but great things for him so far at the center spot.
Yeah, and when I watched Gates last year, I'm an O-line guy. Like, I love to break down O-line stuff. Every time he played last year, I was just so impressive. Not just like, beating a guy, but he would pick things up so quickly, like quicker than any of the offensive linemen. Like, when he'd come in, he'd have the best day out of all the offensive linemen. And so my thinking was, like, with him at center was, hey, Solder's going to play, before the opt-out. But I was like, Solder with that contract's going to play. I wanted Andrew Thomas. They got him. And then Hernandez and Zeitler, that leaves center open. When Solder opted out, I was cool if they would have went Gates at right tackle. But I think center, like you said, it sets us up in the long term where we could have a center, where we have Matt Paired on the roster that we eventually want to see play. So, if we can have a center, like you said, even if he's just average, to have that and have that long term, that's huge. Like, I love Sean O'Hara, but it's not like Sean O'Hara like goes down as like a Hall of Fame center. He's very good, but yeah, I love Nick Gates, dude. He's one of my he's like one of the most fun offensive linemen to watch because he does everything. He pulls, he plays it smart, he picks things up quick, and that's why I'm not worried about him as center. It's because he picks things up mentally really quickly.
And he's big for a center. A lot of people talk about that. Generally, you want your center to be 6'2", 6'3". He's 6'6". But everything you've heard, the coaching staff seems that he's going to transition pretty well. And, of course, they gave him the extension. So you would think that they've got some confidence in him, man. Kid Blue, man, thanks so much for the love. If you guys haven't done so, going over to Kid Blue, check him out, man. He's got a Giants channel himself. He says, I've been a huge Matt Barrett guy since day one. I know you have, KB. And PTA, man, thanks for love. He says he's got a channel as well. He says, yo, Skinner, take a lap.
I know who that is. We did that on one podcast, so I'll keep it up. If someone's paying to have them take laps, I'll take laps. So hold on.
He's actually taking a lap. He's buying into the Giants culture.
Chris, I'm going to make you a ton of money if they keep paying for me to take laps.
There you go. He just took a lap. But we'll field a couple of your guys' questions, and then we'll feed off your questions. We'll talk about it. But thank you to everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. What's going on, Dustin? The other thing I really want to talk about, and I'm sure people are going to ask about this, is free agents out on the market. We were talking about that at the cornerback spot. We only got, and I saw your partner Justin talk about it on Twitter as well. We've only got now, 13, 14 days till the start of the regular season. And like you said, we're not super confident with Corey Ballantyne on the other side. I mean, you're just not at this point, or whoever you're going to put over there. Not that I'd be really confident with any of the other guys that are out there that we could bring in. Prince Amukamara last year, I think, surrendered 105 quarterback rating, 67% completion against, but at least he's a veteran. Would you scour the market right now, try to bring in a guy for a couple of $1 million to at least provide depth at a bare minimum, even if he's not going to start?
Yeah, I would. For one, when they signed Cockrell, I was excited because Cockrell played really well for the Panthers, and I was like, he's outside corner. That's what we need. I don't think that's going to happen, even though that's who I would love to go and get. Prince, like you said, he's going to be cheap. So, and even if he's like not good, then let Corey Ballantyne play, and we have some veteran depth. We have no depth. I mean, who's the backup corner? I know this roster like the back of my hand. Who's the backup corner? I don't know, Brian Williams, a guy I've watched two minutes of. Yeah. So we need some type of depth. So might as well bring Prince in. And you know what? If Ballantyne's better than him or Amukamara struggle, then just play Ballantyne, and then Prince will be better depth than what we have right now. And he's going to be cheap, and it's always great to have a reunion too.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. That's why I wouldn't be against, no matter who it is. It doesn't have to be Amukamara. It could be there's a number of veterans out there that haven't been signed yet, but I would not mind bringing in somebody out there in free agency because, like you said right now, the guy that we just brought, I forgot his name, Williams. To me, he's a special teamer. He's not a guy that you're going to stick out there and have any he's only started 3 games throughout his entire career. So I'm completely for bringing in a veteran to solidify the secondary right now. But let's see what we got here. Daniel Jones. Okay. Jesse says Daniel Jones stat prediction. All right. I get asked that all the time. Give me, I'm assuming for the year. Give me your DJ stat prediction for the year.
All right. So first of all, we got to cut the fumbles in half. So 9 fumbles or less. That's the most important one. We play some tough teams, and I think we're going to run the ball. We're going to try and run the ball a little more with Garrett. But I love DJ, man. I think he's a smart kid. If he fixes the fumbles and just cuts down on a few mistakes, which most QBs should do in their second year if they put the work in, unless they're lazy like Baker Mayfield. I'll say 27, 28 touchdowns, and with a full season, 11, 12 interceptions, and then 3,500 yards. I feel like that's being unbiased.
Yeah, I got a little more in the yardage. I'm right with you on the touchdowns, the interceptions. I know a lot of people look at last year and they'll say, well, he averaged 2 touchdowns a game. He would have had 32. Why do you think he's only going to have 26, 27, 28? Well, it's because I agree with exactly what you just said. I think that they're going to make it they're going to definitely try to focus on the run. They're going to run the hell out of the ball. Last year, they only ran 34% of the time. It was the third fewest amount in terms of percentage in the entire league. I think they're going to try to reverse that or at least be middle of the pack this year. So that's why I think he's going to have less opportunities to throw. And I think that's the right approach, especially due to the fact that you've got a young, inexperienced defense with a completely banged up secondary. We got to keep them off the field. You got to win the time of possession. You got the best running back in football. You got to give it to them. So I think that they're going to be a little bit more conservative with the play calling this year. Hopefully, obviously, if they fall behind the games, they're going to have to throw. But right. I don't think he'll have as many passing attempts per game. I think that'll be the offensive strategy.
Yeah, we just recorded our Saquon episode, so I have the stats in front of me. He only had 6 rushing touchdowns last year. So I think obviously he missed some games. Galman had 1 touchdown in one of those games. I think Buck Allen had 1 against Miami. So 8 rushing touchdowns for the season? I think that number will improve. And I was looking at it. Saquon averages 16 carries a game. Give him 3 more carries a game, 19 carries a game. I feel like that's not crazy. Some games you have more, some you have less. He'd be the leading rusher in the league. So I think they're going to try and really start games and run the ball. I mean, remember the first 2 games of last year? The first series against Dallas, ran the ball. Some passing involved as a passing touchdown to Ingram, but ran the ball. The Buffalo game, what was it, like 7, 8, just all running plays. Eli didn't even pass the ball 1 time and it ended up being a touchdown. So I really think they're going to try and do that early on.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I'm encouraged to see from Barkley this year, last year, if you remember, because we're talking about the passing game, last year him and Daniel Jones weren't really on the same page, in terms of the passing game. There was articles written about that. They didn't have great chemistry. I'm interested to see how the New York Giants utilize Saquon Barkley in the passing game, because a player like that, you want to get him as many opportunities as you possibly can out in space. I don't know if I want to see him with 92 catches, but I definitely want to see him in the 75, 80 catch range. I wouldn't be shocked if Barkley leads his team in receptions, to be honest with you. But I do want to see him get more involved in the passing game this year as well.
I want to see more important catches too. With Eli, it was a lot of swing passes, towards the end of his career. And Jones, and you saw this at Duke, he likes to check. When he checks, he doesn't like to check down, for one. He likes to go downfield. But when he does check down, he likes to go to his tight ends because it's like in the middle of the field and some depth. They really need to, like you said, line Saquon up wide. Let him be like a legit wide receiver on plays, like that Washington play. Let him go up the seam. Have some plays that are, besides just a screen pass, that are designed to get Saquon receiving yards and not just, like you said, like the check down swing pass. Like have more important yards than just check downs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Take more shots down the field. Tom, man, thanks for love. He says, should Joe Big Tuna Judge, and he is a little thick, I'm not going to lie to you. He does kind of look like a baby tuna, get into better shape? No, I mean, look at Andy Reid. He just won the Super Bowl last year.
No, the worse shape you're in, the better coach you are. I like baby tuna, though. That's a good nick. If we got to wait for success first, obviously. But I think if we win a Super Bowl with Joe Judge, I think we might have to steal like baby tuna as a nickname from you.
Andy Reid just won the Super Bowl last year. He's as big as they come. So
the big walrus.
Yeah, he's a walrus, exactly. JB, man, thanks for love. He says, thoughts on our receivers this year? Good question. I'll let you start with it. Our receiving core as a whole, and maybe give me who you think is going to be at the back end. I did my roster prediction video today. I'm curious to see who you think our 5th and 6th receivers will be that make this team, and just the receiving core as a whole. What do you think?
All right, so I'll go quick through the top because everyone already has their opinion. I think Shepard's the best wide receiver on the team. Can he stay healthy? But I think Shep's the best. Slayton in this Air Coryell offense, which is predicated on some deep routes. I think Slayton's going to get a lot of deep shots, so I think he will be the touchdown leader from receivers. And hopefully he continues his progress. Tate, I mean, I think he's a good third option. Like you have him in the slot. Like if you have Golden Tate as your third option, I think you're okay. So those trio. Number 4 wide receiver, I'm going Corey Coleman. Yeah. He had the most yards in that scrimmage. It looks like he's in that rotation. Number 5, I love this guy, man. If he was a rookie this year, part of the undrafted free agent class, people would be talking about him way more.
Sills.
David Sills. He had 32 touchdowns in 2 years at West 33. Virginia. 33.
Yeah.
And he's big. We don't have that big, Slayton's 6'1", but he's big, 6'3", like 217 pounds. He's a big dude. He's a decent route runner, and he could bully guys in the end zone. So I'm going David Sills. And my last one, I can't believe I'm saying this because you had Benjamin Victor, you had Austin Mack, you had Derek Dillon.
6. I want to hear the name.
All right. Everyone talked about those guys, but we're not hearing their name. Alex Bachmann. Why not? Why not? Why not? We see these guys show up out of nowhere. He's been impressing. Why not let it be Alex Bachmann?
That was my exact 6 today. I did my roster prediction.
I love it.
I had Sills 5. I had Bachmann 6. Everything that you're hearing about Bachmann, the guy is standing out each and every practice. They said that he's versatile. The coaches seem to love him, and I'm in complete agreement with you. I think he's going to make this team. And what's crazy is we brought in so many free agents, undrafted free agents, like you said. Tony Brown's another one. We brought in 6 undrafted free agents. Nobody even talked about this guy, and he's kind of been the standout at camp that everybody's been talking about. And I've been pumping Sills for months now. I agree with you. Everybody forgot about him. Last year, we brought him in as an undrafted free agent, didn't make the team, and everybody was talking about Benjamin Victor, all these other guys that we brought in. Everybody forgot about Sills. Sills is the type of receiver we need. He's a 6'3" guy, could go up and catch it. He's obviously good in the red zone. The guy caught 33 touchdowns, and he had, I think, 18 touchdowns his last year at West Virginia, and he had under 1,000 yards. So the guy is a proven red zone target. And from what I've seen in highlights, I don't watch a ton of film on him. He lines up both on the inside and outside. He seems versatile. So I'm a big Sills guy. I think he's going to make this team, and he might have an impact.
Yeah, man. Where last year when our wide receivers went down, obviously you don't want to see guys go down where it's like, oh, gosh, who are we going to play? Like Cody Latimer, Damari Scott. Where this year, we want them all to stay healthy, but if they goes down, it's like, okay, let's see what Coleman can do. See what Sills can do on the outside. And then I looked at the scrimmage to see, kind of get a thought of where they stand. And so with the second team, with Colt McCoy at QB, the guys who caught passes was Corey Coleman, 2 for 37. Bachmann had 2 for 13. Sills 1 for 11. And then Mack was the other guy, 1 for 10. So these guys have a good idea of where the roster stands. So that tells me that it's either Bachmann or Mack for the last guy on the roster.
Yeah. So yeah, and everybody had Victor, including myself, as the favorite. But we'll see. It could change. We still got. Well, they got to be doing it soon. Last year, I think they finalized the rosters on the 31st, so they got to be doing it soon. I think I read when it is. I think it's in a couple.
Saturday. I believe. Yeah. I believe Saturday at 4. That's usually when it is. It's Saturday at 4 of this week. So unless it changed.
So we'll know really soon. JB, man, thanks for love. He says, I want to see Evan Ingram put up Kelsey numbers. And thank you to everybody for tuning in, by the way, guys. Thank you so much, man. By the way, if you guys have not done so, what's going on, Dire Giant fan, MMKG, Giddeo, Jersey Life, Waterfly? Thank you guys for being here. If you guys have not done so, please go to Bobby's channel, Talkin Giants, and check out his podcast as well. Ingram's a guy I'm really excited about in this offense this year as well. If you look over the course of history, when Garrett Cole plays in Dallas, the tight end thrived. In the 6 years that Garrett was the play caller in Dallas, Witten had 4 1,000-yard seasons. He didn't have another 1,000-yard season any year in his career. I think they're going to use Ingram a lot, and if Ingram goes down, I think Caden Smith will benefit. But I like the tight end in this offense. I think they're going to try to open up the middle of the field with the tight end by using vertical routes on the outside. If Ingram stays healthy this year, I think he's in for a 1,000-yard season. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, and my friend, the Football Grump, who he does another Giants podcast, he mentioned that he saw in a practice clip where Shermer never really put Ingram vertical. They had Ingram going vertical on some routes, and Jones hit him in the back of the end zone for a play. It's such a huge if with the Ingram injury, and you can't really say if he stays healthy, because he hasn't stayed healthy. But if he's huge, I mean, the numbers going into that, after that Arizona game, which was his first bad game last year, I mean, he was having a dominant year as a tight end, and then he got hurt, and it just went total downhill from there. But like you said, the Garrett offense is used as the tight ends a lot. Daniel Jones likes to check down the tight ends. So, like I said, it's a huge if, but there's no reason he can't be a star tight end, Pro Bowl tight end this year.
Yeah, he would have been last year. You look at the numbers last year. If he stayed healthy, he was on pace for 1,000 yards. Him and Jones already had chemistry. He was on pace to have, I think I did a video on this, as many targets as Kelsey last year before he got hurt, who was in the top 10 or 11 in targets. John, man, thanks for the love, man. I appreciate it. He says, do you think Galman makes this team? Yeah, 100%. I mean, once they cut Javon Leak, to me, that signifies that they're probably going with 4 running backs. I know that they brought another running back in to compete. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Tavion Feaster.
Yeah, that's it. But I think they're going to go with 4 running backs, and which is what they went with last year. And I do think Galman's going to make this team. I think Galman might even be the primary backup. He's had a really good training camp. It's him and Lewis. It'll probably be a split. But another thing I really want to talk about after you give your opinion on Galman, the fullback position. I'm excited to use that I formation this year. We didn't use it at all last year, only on 11% of the plays. And I think Garrett's going to use it a lot more based on prior history. So I want to get your thoughts on on Penny. But first, I want to get your thoughts on Galman.
Galman, I'm not a huge Galman fan. Like that Washington game where he came in for when Saquon was out, everyone's like, oh, he had 2 touchdowns, but he averaged less than 4 yards per catch. The receiving touchdown was Jones moved the guy with his eyes, and he was wide open on a swing pass. So I'm not a huge Galman fan. So I actually was kind of upset when they cut Leak because I like Leak. I liked his big playability at Maryland. He could kick return. And I'm just kind of over Galman. But when they cut Leak, like you said, I think it made it like okay, Galman's on this roster. And I think they're actually, like you said, are going to split his reps with Lewis, although I would just let Lewis be the flat-out backup. So I'm not the biggest Galman fan.
Yeah, I wasn't either, to be honest with you. I'm still not the biggest. The guy's had fumbling problems. He's only averaged like 3.5 yards, 3.6 yards a carry the last 2 years. The one thing I'll say in his defense, he hasn't really gotten an opportunity. I think he's only had 60 carries over the last 2 years combined, but I'm not a huge Galman fan either.
That's the thing, though. With Saquon, you're never gonna have that huge opportunity. That's why I've just never been on with. That's why I like Leak, where Leak is used to like not having a ton of carries, but when he does, he turns them into big plays. Granted, it's in the Big Ten, not the NFL. But I just wanted to see something fresh at the 3rd running back spot, and just at least it's not John Hillman. I was so mad when they kept John Hillman and that he started a football game for the Giants.
You know what's going to make me mad? If the Giants keep Alex Tanney, there are no excuses this year. They'll probably go with 3 quarterbacks again, but now there's no excuses. You brought in Cooper Rush. He's familiar with the Garrett system. There's every excuse in the book for Alex Tanney not to be on this team. I don't care if his mom makes good turkeys for Thanksgiving for Daniel Jones. Tanney better be cut this year, and Cooper Rush better be that 3rd-string quarterback.
He's gonna get cut. Cooper will be, but I'll be honest. I've made so many Tanney jokes the last 2 years that I have like an attachment to him for some reason. And he's got an experience that nobody will ever have. He was the 3rd QB in the room with Eli the past and Daniel Jones the future. Like when he does eventually get cut, I'm going to try and get a hold of Alex Tanney because I just want to interview him and talk about, I'll give him a little bit to talk about his career, but I just want to talk about what that dynamic was like with Eli and Daniel Jones. Even if I don't even put it out, I just want to hear his honest thoughts on that. Yeah. So like you said, there's no excuse, but there will be a little part of me that's sad when Tanney goes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. Let me get a couple more questions here. Do you guys feel good? We just talked about the wide receivers Rich had. Pick one. Okay. David Lieber says pick one surprise cut/trade from each position. I mean, that's a lot. I don't think we can come up with a surprise for every position. But give me like a couple of guys that I think most people think are definitely going to make this team at this point that you think could potentially be cut. Not necessarily that you think will be cut, but maybe they're on the bubble.
Well, this might not be a surprise right now because they worked out Halapio, but I think Pulley might be a cut because it'll save that $2+ million in cap space. I'm not a big Pulley fan. I get his 2018 wasn't horrible, but you watched the one game he played, and he gave up like 3 tackles for a loss, a sack, a penalty. Like he just sucked. Like I can't stand Pulley, and I love Gates too, so that made me dislike Pulley a little more. So Pulley would be my surprise cut, but I hate to be boring. I mean, where can you see a surprise cut on this roster? Because there's not going to be one in the DBs. I would have said David Mayo if his contract wasn't guaranteed this year because Connolly, because Tay Crowder, who I love, and then supposedly the Giants love this Devontae Downs guy. With Mayo's injury, I would have said Mayo, but his contract's guaranteed for this year, so there's no reason to move on. But, I mean, it's not going to be on the, besides Pulley, I don't know. Maybe Alex Tanney. How about that? Can I count him as a surprise cut?
It might be a surprise at this point, but I'll give you 2 names, and I'm not picking either one to get cut. I picked both of them to make the team. Toyolo, I think, is a small possibility from things I read. He hasn't had a really good camp. He's blocked poorly. They have a few other tight ends on this roster that are playing decent, so he'd be a guy that I think would be a surprise that I don't think will be cut. but I'd give it a very small chance. And the other one would be Conley. If he doesn't prove that he's completely healthy, I think could be a bit of a surprise because, like you said, Devontae Downs has been playing well. I don't think he'll be cut, but those are just two names that maybe there's like a 5% chance, but I don't think either one will be cut.
I would lose my mind if they cut Conley.
Yeah,
I love Conley. I know he's coming off the ACL, but I would lose it if they cut Conley.
Who do you think is going to be the starting middle linebacker next to Martinez at the start of the year?
Devontae Downs. It's crazy, but that's what everyone's saying is that he's the guy out there. When they started saying that, I went and watched some of his preseason stuff with the Vikings. Kind of slow, nothing crazy impressive, but I guess he's been impressing. Who I want it to be with Mayo injury, with Conley seemed to be that slowing him back. I love Tay Crowder, the Mr. Irrelevant kid out of Georgia. And I said it on a podcast the other day. The only thing that bothered me about the Giants picking Tay Crowder was that they picked that TJ Brunson guy from South Carolina before him. Because I love that Tay Crowder. If they would, Mr. Irrelevant, but if they would have took him at the 4th round and I would have went and looked at him, I would have said, good pick. I think he plays super fast. He's someone who changed from running back. So I would go Tay Crowder and just put him in there with Blake Martinez.
I think it'll be Downs too, though, but from everything that you've heard, but we'll see. And Crowder may very well make this roster. He's kind of on the bubble too, but there's a good chance he'll make it. Big Blue Man, thanks for the love. He says, how many subs do you need to do with Joe Judge, Tana? Oh, wow. Now maybe I'll do one of those videos as a joke. Not right now, though. Maybe
do a what video?
Maybe I'll have somebody hose me down and I'll jump on top of a football where everybody's yelling Tana, Tana, Tana instead of Judge.
We did a lap video and then the tennis balls in our hand. But I said today, I'm not setting up a slip and slide and all that. I'm not doing all that. I'm not embarrassing myself like that.
And JV, man, thanks for love. He says, want to see DJ run a lot more this season. All right, let me get your thoughts on that. I've had a lot of people ask me about, will the Giants have more RPOs? Will they center the playbook more around him? Obviously, last year he came in as the backup, and now that they know he's the starter going in, do you expect to see more designed, RPO plays for Daniel Jones?
Yes, I want to see some more designed runs. But as far as him running out of the pocket, I love that he stays in the pocket. He's not going to scramble unless he needs to. I love that about him. I get that the NFL is becoming a little more passing, but there's something about a guy who could just stay in the pocket and not be phased. I love that about Jones. Obviously, you want to see him scramble a little more. But, yeah, I would love to see him run more, just slide. The dude just is not afraid of a hit. It's remember that Jets game, the 3rd down and 10?
Yeah.
It's 3rd down, so it's a little more you can't get too mad at it. But he just is not afraid of a hit. And the play he got hurt, he went with, who was it? He was Preston Smith or Zadarius Smith. Just went head up and bullied them, got the 1st down, and that was the play where he hurt his ankle. He's just not scared of a hit, which I love. But also part of me is dude, look what happened with Andrew Luck. Don't get in the habit of doing that all the time.
That's what I say, man. I am not, and I know he's got the ability to get out in space and make plays with his legs and throw the football in the run. I am not a fan of my quarterback taking off and running with it because you saw it last year. It resulted in an injury. And obviously, the more that you run, the higher probability you get injured. Look at Eli Manning. The guy didn't know how to run, and he stayed relatively healthy. But I would like to see more RPOs somewhat, but I don't want to see him run too much. But when he does run, be smart, like you said. Be like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he knows when to get down. He knows when to get out of bounds, avoid the hit. Jones got to get better at that for sure. But I do want to see him get out and use the legs more. And Zeke, man, thank you so much. He says, can we get a win over the Eagles and Cowboys, please? Listen, man, it's been, 4 years now since we beat 16 we swept the Cowboys. I think that's the last time we beat either one of those teams. It's been too long. And
it's pathetic that we haven't, we just haven't beat our rivals. And like you said, 4 years. We don't know. We haven't had that feeling in 4 years. We don't even need to be good. Just give us, like you said, one win over those teams.
Yeah. And the most sickening thing is specifically the Eagles. We should have won half those games. When we played the Eagles the last couple of years, we had a 10-point lead at halftime in 2018. We were outplaying them the second game we played them this year with Eli. I think Eli was playing the quarterback the second time around. He was balling the first half, and we just fell apart. We fell right on our face. I think the 2017 year, if I'm not mistaken, was that the year they blocked the kick or something like that. The Giants have just found ways.
63-yarder with Elliott.
Oh, God, yeah. The Giants have just found ways to lose games against that football team. And if nothing else this year, do that. Get me a win, bare minimum, against the Eagles and hopefully the Cowboys. But I really want to beat the Eagles.
Yeah. I would say the Cowboys because I'm in Florida, so I deal with more Cowboys fans than Eagles fans. Here's something. I actually hate Washington more than the Cowboys and the Eagles. My brother, he was a big NASCAR fan, and he liked Tony Stewart. Joe Gibbs was the owner of Tony Stewart. Through that, he became a Washington fan. So my brother is a Washington fan because he wasn't born in Jersey like I was. He was born in Florida. And I have like a lot of friends who are Washington fans. So, and with the Haskins like comparisons to Jones, the past year or two, I've just hated you can't even call them the Redskins anymore. It's so weird. You just keep calling them Washington.
Yeah, the football team. But you're right. The rivalry is definitely picking up. Between Haskins and Jones, and then you got Landon Collins, and last year you had Flowers. The rivalry is definitely starting to pick up with the football team. I definitely don't hate them as much as the Eagles and the Cowboys, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just haven't been good. I mean, the Eagles have given me some of the worst memories in my lifetime as a sports fan. So, but I do think I wouldn't be shocked in a couple of years if those are the two teams atop the division. I do like the way both those teams are building right now. For the Skins or the football team, it's going to come down to Haskins, though. I'd like to get your thoughts on him, actually, and then I'm going to get to a couple more of these. But just the division as a whole, how do you see this division playing out? Maybe not even just this year, but in the future, when you look at like the Eagles cap situation, they're like -50 in cap next year. You look at the Skins, the way they built with Chase Young through the draft. What do you think of the future of this division? How does it line up for the Giants?
I'll go with Washington quick. I can't stand Haskins. I was so glad that I wasn't doing this stuff as in depth. So after the Giants drafted Jones is when I deep dived into him. But I did look at Haskins a lot before the draft, and I just couldn't stand him. It was so much checkdowns at Ohio State, and he seems like an immature. I'm totally out on Haskins. The Eagles, they've got so much talent, but it's just, can Wentz stay healthy for an entire season? I know it was a concussion last year in the playoffs, but it's like he's been missing practices in this camp. I do think Wentz is better than Dak. The thing, and the Cowboys, there's no excuse for them to not be awesome. And I really think it comes down to Dak. I think Jason Garrett was a really bad head coach. But look at the Cowboys roster. They have maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. You have Zeke, who's a top 3 back. You got all these wide receivers. On defense, you have those like DeMarcus Lawrence. I think Jalen Smith's one of the most underrated linebackers. You have him next to Van Der Esch. They had Byron Jones last year as a corner last year. So I guess secondary is their weak spot this year. But that's like a Super Bowl roster, and they went 8-8 and missed the playoffs. And you look at Dak versus winning teams versus losing teams, and he's a totally different player. So I would say QB-wise, I like Jones, so obviously. But I think Wentz, even with the injuries, I think I'd go Wentz over Dak.
Oh, yeah, Wentz is definitely better than Dak. I honestly don't even think it's close. When you look at the surrounding roster for Dak and you watch what Wentz did with all those receivers that went down, the thing you worry about with Wentz is the injuries. And I agree with you. The Cowboys have no excuses now. Their only excuse was Garrett. Like you said, they had the roster, and everybody blamed the head coach. Well, now you brought in McCarthy. McCarthy's won a Super Bowl. Cowboys got no excuse this year. So we'll see how that all turns out. JB, man, thanks for love. He says, does Carter lead the team in sacks? I like Leo. All right, what's your thoughts on the pass rush as a whole going into the season? Obviously, we don't have any bona fide stars. We have guys that we're hoping, progress and become maybe closer to being stars. But who do you like, and who do you think could break out this year in terms of the edge rushers for the Giants?
I want it to be O'Shane Ximines. I want him to be the guy, and I think they're actually using like Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane as the starters, and then Golden as a backup. Obviously, they rotate that position, so I want it to be Ximines. I still think the safe bet would be Golden. The defensive tackles. I know people hate I couldn't stand the Leonard Williams trade, although I think he's a good player. He had a half a sack last year, but you look at his career, he's gotten sacks. Like he had a 7-sack year. He had an all-pro season, either in a second or third year. So, but I just don't think he's going to be the sack getter. I think him, Dex, and Dalvin will kind of split that a little bit from the inside. So I want it to be O'Shane, but I think it's going to be Marcus Golden.
Interesting. Yeah, to me, it's like splitting hairs. I think it could be any one of those guys. What do you think of Carter?
Maybe Logan Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, you could be at 4 or 5 last year. That may lead the team. But what do you think of Lorenzo Carter? I mean, he had that really good scrimmage. Giants fans seem to be somewhat down on him because he disappointed last year. How do you think? First off, how do you think he's going to be used in this defense? Do you think he's going to be used exclusively as a pass rusher, or do you think they'll drop him back in coverage at times? Could you see him play in the middle a bit? Being that he's athletic, he actually graded out pretty well in coverage last year. What type of role do you think he's going to have? Do you think he'll be exclusively a pass rusher?
No, you look at him in college, he was never like just like you said, exclusively pass rusher, sack getter. And I think he is a traditional 3-4. You have one outside linebacker who's just rushing the passer, like Terrell Suggs. And then you have the one guy who's going back in coverage. And I think that's what Carter is. I think he's solid in every area. I don't think he's great in any area. Now, if he can turn into a great pass rusher, awesome. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. I think he's just a solid all around, like you said. Put him in coverage. Put him at moving the inside linebacker for a rep or two. Let him rush the passer for a whole drive. I think he's a versatile player who's kind of like good in every, like decent in every area, but not great in any single one.
Which seems like he fits the defense, versatility. That's what Judge looks for. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Q-Dog, man, thanks so much for the love. He says, watching my favorite coach, Joe Judge, getting down and dirty with the players was so good to see. Reminds me of when Coughlin softened up for the team. Yeah, great call there, Q-Dog. Of course, he's had that MO by the media being this guy that's, way too hard on the players. He's a disciplinarian, and he comes out there today. He's sliding in the mud. And, yeah, I mean, Joe Judge, you remember you're about the same age – not Joe Judge, rather Tom Coughlin. They had, it was the whole thing. If you weren't 5 minutes early to the meeting, you were late. And then as he progressed as a coach, he softened up a bit, and the players grew to like him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like we said earlier, is it's much easier to start out like tough and rough and then like dial it back a bit. Like we said at the beginning of this, where Ben McAdoo was easygoing, everyone's best friend, and then when he had to get tough, they didn't work, and then he suspended guys, and that made things worse. So I like this where it's like Judge comes in, sets the tone, and then at times peels it back where he's going to have, this fun moment, or they'll cancel practice and go to the pool or something like that. So I like that. We said at the beginning with people are saying, well, if they lose, he'll lose the locker room. It's like, okay, then we still are losing. Where Pat Shurmur didn't lose the locker room, but because he lost, he was fired. So like the name of the game is winning. I like Joe Judge. I love everything he's doing. The only thing that scared me is when he had the thing about hitting the QB. He cleared that up, that he wasn't actually doing that. But I was scared for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of Giants fans got scared when he did that. What's going on, Hot Nichols? He says, stand up. We got at least 50% on our rivals. We got at least 50% on our rivals this season. Let's go, Big Blue. I think he's saying we're going to go at least 3-3 in the division. Thank you so much for being here, Hot Nichols. Really appreciate it. And Tom Ty says Chase Young will get 6 sacks on Thomas this year with a crying emoji.
Can you send his money back?
What?
Can you send his money back?
I certainly hope not. What do you think of Andrew Thomas? Do you think it's going to take some time for him to get acclimated to the pros? Do you think he'll struggle maybe a bit at first with the shortened off season? Or do you think he's going to step right in and be a premier tackle? I
think he'll have a game. Look at how we start the season. You got TJ Watt. The next week you have Khalil Mack. After that, who is it? The Rams, Aaron Donald, so they won't go up against him. And then Nick Bosa with the 49ers. So he's going to have some tough matchups. So I think he'll have some bad games. But I think when we look at the season and relax, it will be like very good year. I love Thomas. There was those 4 offensive tackles, Thomas, Wills, Becton, and then Wirfs. I thought Thomas was the best. He was the best against the best competition. He shut down K'Lavon Chasen. He shut down Josh Allen at Kentucky. He shut down Romeo Okwara at Notre Dame. He shut down the best competition. He gave up 1 sack the entire year. And he has things to improve on. He needs to improve on his punch, his footwork. So I'm a huge Thomas guy, man. I was banging on the table for him for January, and I was happy when he got there. So like I said, he'll have some struggles, but hopefully some good coaching can use these tight ends that we have to block and do some quicker stuff and run the ball a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I like about you. You're a hog molly guy like me. I was dying for them to take an offensive tackle in this year's draft, and I was very happy when they did. And I'm assuming you were not in favor of Simmons at all at number 4.
I made it clear that I was going I wanted Andrew Thomas, but I would have been excited for Simmons, man. He's an exciting, he's an exciting player. And I think he has the potential, if he puts in the work, to be like a game-changing defender. And that's what it's hard to pass up on a game-changing defender. But I like the need with offensive tackle, and I like Andrew Thomas better than anybody in the last tackle class. I like Jonah Williams from Alabama the year before, but I liked Thomas better than him. So I think Thomas has the chance to be an all-pro left tackle. And protect your QB. Protect your franchise. We don't want an Andrew Luck situation. So I was definitely on Andrew Thomas, but I would have been excited to see how Simmons would have been used.
Of course. But let me go here. Show me the Hogs. That's right, Afghanistan. And let's get another question here, man. Let's see. What do you think the Giants should do if Daniel Jones? Okay, here's a question from Yvonne. What do you think the Giants should do if Daniel Jones does not fix his fumbling problems? And I don't want to think pessimistically.
I don't know. Like, what do you like? If he Thrill Collins, you're in the chat. I can't stand you. He says to consider Trevor Lawrence. I can't stand that. I can't. The Cardinals, what the Cardinals did with Kyler Murray, I don't feel like that's like a trendsetter. That was a whole different college coach with Kingsbury. You have Kyler Murray, who this guy loved since college, and a different type of QB, and they went on it. But I don't think like drafting QBs 2 years or 2 years after you draft a guy. I'm a big believer in Jones. So one, I don't think we're going to be in a situation to draft Trevor Lawrence, but the fumbles, I think he's going to clean it up. Like he's too much of a hard worker to not clean them up. Like he'll have them, but 18 fumbles, to think that that's going to be replicated would be crazy. And if it did, it would be frustrating because everything else about him is promising. You love his accuracy. You love his willingness to go downfield. You love his mentality. I like, how do you fix fumbles 2 years in a row? I don't know what you do.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, and I don't think it's going to happen. I'm with you. I think it's going to he may still fumble this year, but I think it's going to improve. I don't think he's going to be a guy that fumbles 1.5 times per game, which is what he averaged last year, 18 fumbles in 12 games. I don't think that'll happen. But if it does, and he fumbles 20 times this year, and the Giants win 2 games, yeah, I think you'd have to at least open the conversation about whether or not you take a quarterback. I don't want to do it. I hate that, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. I really don't.
I hope not. I just don't even want to have that conversation because I love Jones so much.
Yeah, I'm all for Jones. I'm rooting for Jones, and I don't think we're going to have that conversation. But if we're going to think pessimistically, and yes, I think at that point you'd have to at least consider it. But we don't want to be in that boat. We want to build around our quarterback. We've got our quarterback. We identified that he's going to be our franchise guy. I think Galman did a good job finding a guy that I think we could all trust at least to be a good quarterback in the NFL as long as he fixes those fumbling problems. We want to fix that offensive line. We want to build up this defense and give him a supporting cast similar to what Eli Manning had. So I know Trevor Lawrence is this otherworldly talent. I don't want Trevor Lawrence. I want to improve the friggin' defense, Bobby.
Yeah. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence is like when I view of like the top QB prospect, I look at Andrew Luck. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is on Andrew Luck's level. And he was really bad in the national championship game. And here's something that's totally off topic, and actually it's not. I think if you are like a 4-star QB going into college, why wouldn't you go and play at Duke and play with David Cutcliffe, who's known as this great QB coach, and learn to struggle? Because I feel like too many times these QB, like look at Haskins. It was just so easy in college. You have the best players around you that you get to the NFL and you don't know what it's like to be under pressure, to not have guys wide open. Like I like Joe Burrow, but you watch Joe Burrow and it's like sometimes he just threw it up and Jamar Chase would come down and get it, or Justin Jefferson would totally burn people. And it's like you can't do that in the NFL. So I would love to see one QB try that where they went and just played at Duke. You're not going to win a national championship. You're not going to win a Heisman, but you're going to learn how to play QB in the NFL. You're going to learn how to deal with adversity. So I just want to see one guy try that. And plus, I love Cutcliffe. He gave us Eli and now Jones. Yeah,
and he also coached Peyton. He's definitely got a good track record in terms of producing good pros at the college level. JB, man, thanks for love. He says, should we get a big receiver or a fast one? I'm assuming you're talking about this year's draft.
How about both? Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is one of the – he's a hard worker.
Right. Chase, he held out?
Yeah, he actually just decided to opt out. He had like 20-plus touchdowns. I went to go watch Joe Burrow. Even though we weren't drafting a QB, I wanted to get an idea of these QBs from this class. And Joe Burrow definitely popped out. But what popped out to me is who is this number one guy? He is amazing. And Jamar Chase, I know it would be crazy to go offense 4 years in a row under Gettleman, but it would be so hard to say no to Jamar Chase. I think he's the best player in the draft next year.
You think he's that good? You have number one in the entire draft.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're the Jaguars, you're going to draft a QB over him.
Yeah.
But overall, just best, I think that's Jamar Chase.
Wow. That's how. Now, everybody has him going in the top 5, and hopefully we're not picking there. I'm hoping we're picking 32. But, yeah, I mean, wide receiver is definitely a possibility in the first round next year. The other options, I'm a big fan of Parsons from what I've seen, and we need a linebacker just as much as anything else. So we'll see. We could also use a guy like Russo on the outside. And a lot it's going to depend on the guys that are already on the roster. You know, does Darius Slayton develop into a number one? Does O'Shane Ximines have 12 sacks this year? And then we're like, all right, maybe we don't need an edge rusher as much as we thought. So a lot of that's going to depend on how the players play this year and free agency before that. You have to look at the free agency class and see how you can fill the holes. But, yeah, wide receiver is definitely going to be one of the things they're looking at. You look at Eli Manning. They went out there. They brought in Plaxico Burress in his second year or so. And I think there's a good chance Tate will be cut after this year due to salary cap.
Yeah, I think that probably will be, unless he just goes off. But like you said, I think he'll get cut. A name, I know, since we're talking a little bit of draft, we did, because there was no like OTAs, we did a week where it's like, all right, let's look at the 2021 draft and look at some guys. A name that's like being mentioned in the second round, I just want everyone who's watching to remember this. Chaz Serrat, linebacker from UNC. He transferred from QB. They're saying he's going to go in the second round. I think this guy's going to be an awesome inside linebacker. He's fast. He plays hard. He's a hard hitter. Just remember that name, Chaz Serrat. His brother plays wide receiver for Wake Forest, who's really good too.
A lot of my subscribers have been telling me about him, actually, now that you bring him up. Johnny, man, thanks for the love. He says, have this guy on more. He really knows his stuff. Great show tonight. Johnny, I really appreciate that. Listen, man, I'm telling you right now, guys, they're going to put the link in the chat. Go over there. Bobby Skinner is an awesome guy. He's got a great podcast. He's got a channel on YouTube. I wanted to bring him on. They were kind enough to have me on their channel. Definitely knows his stuff, man. I was dying to have him on. And listen, Bobby, I'm all for what the people want. I would love to have you back on as much as possible, you and Justin, whenever you guys want to come on. So you're doing a great job tonight. Thank you for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, man. You're the king of Giants YouTube, man. What's funny is because, you do the Talking Sports. So when we started getting our YouTube going, I was like, oh, who's this guy Talking Giants? I was like, damn, this dude has a ton of subscribers. I don't even know who he is. And then I saw you on Twitter. I was like, oh, he only has, you've grown more. But it's like, he only has like this many on Twitter, but he's huge on YouTube. So definitely went and listened to your stuff. And I was like, oh, we got to get him on the show. So yeah, man, you're the king of Giants YouTube. And like I said, people love your stuff. Your views are crazy.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on, man. And you got a great podcast, man. You got a great podcast. You're doing great things over there. And congratulations. You told me you're on your way to going full time with John Boy Media. So
yep.
Congratulations on that, my man. Simon says, Bobby, you're the man. Your channel guy deserves more subs. He's freaking awesome, man. He's got a great podcast.
I love it.
Got to grow on YouTube. Go and check him out, Simon. He's definitely got a great channel over there.
New Jersey Jake said Sam Howell, the UNC QB. If Jones struggles after year 3, then you can look at a QB. Sam Howell, I like him a lot too.
Hey, there you go. JB says you got Chase over Justin Ross. Interesting on the wide receiver.
Ross, I mean I do, but Ross had a really bad injury. Because we were looking at him for that week, and he was going to miss this whole year, and it's a really bad injury. I can't remember what it was, but there's some I thought that he might not even be able to play.
Oh, there you go. And thank you to everybody for being here, man. I really appreciate it. And Marjorie says, funny, Chris is my YouTuber and Bobby is my tweeter. So there you go.
I like it. That's the way we do it.
You got to listen to his podcast, too. He's got a great podcast. Let's see what we got here. Chris, you're the king of Giants. I appreciate that, Anthony, man. I just like to play a part. Mike, man, thanks for posting my Discord, by the way. If anybody wants to, you click the Discord. That's going to start to blow up. Please go in there. We talk football all day, and now we're going to have a lot of football to talk about. So go on over, join the Discord. Thank you for being here. Sabrina, thank you for being here. And go ahead and ask your questions, guys. Victor got to be a practice squad guy. Yeah, he'll be on the practice squad, Viciano. But I'm just trying to get a couple of questions here, guys. How is the draft? Okay, here's a good question from Sean. I actually have a theory on this. But he says, how is the draft going to work if there isn't a college season? And I think there's going to be. They're starting to play some college games, but it's not going to be a normal college season with some of these, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 sitting out. How do you think it's going to affect the draft?
I think it's going to be big. You see the big names. You mentioned Micah Parsons and Russo. I like both those guys, but those guys in particular were two people I wanted to see another year of. I wanted to see Parsons play in the past. I wanted to see Russo do more stuff just from the outside, where a lot of his stuff was going inside. Like the Florida State game, he had 4 sacks. 3 of them were on the guard. I wanted to see him do more from the outside. So I really think it's going to make people. I think the guys who play this year, obviously, like the top guys are going to be the top guys, but guys who play this year, I think are going to really have an advantage over like Big Ten guys who don't. That were like they'll definitely have the advantage because like we saw this guy play good this year.
Yeah, and my theory with that is I actually think the Giants, and I'd have to go around and look at all the coaching staff, but I actually think if there wasn't a college season or a limited college season, I think the Giants have a tremendous advantage due to the fact that they have so many coaches who were just coaching in college the year before. You look at the coaching staff, they've got like 5-6 guys that were coaching in the college ranks, one of which was a recruiter from Marshall. Obviously, Coach K has coached at Penn State. A number of guys. Kevin Sherr was coaching at Tennessee. They have a number of guys that were coaching in college just the year before. So they've coached these players. They've coached against these players. They've recruited these players. And obviously the ties to Saban with Joe Judge. Burns was the running back coach at Alabama. So we've got a number of coaches that were in the college ranks just a year ago. So I actually think the Giants should be at an advantage over a lot of teams in the NFL.
Yeah, like you named them all. I mean, Dooley, Sherr, Burns, like Spencer. I was so glad. I bet there's a lot of Penn State people in here. Yetur Gross-Matos. He was a guy I liked, but I was like, I hope they don't take him just because he played there. So, yeah, I think it does put us at an advantage. And for whatever you want to say about Gettleman, the guy knows how to scout college. So that's an advantage we have too, if he's around.
Yeah. And Tom Tyler says, thank you for the love, Tom. He says, Tana has the better looks, but Bobby has the better voice.
Well, I do mostly podcasts, so that works out for me, Tom.
So there you go.
I'm 6'7", so I got the height going for me too.
You're 6'7"?
Yeah, former college. I played tackle, not very well, but I played it.
Wow, I didn't know you was. Wow, I can't get in a fight with you, man. No one. I gotta get more.
You can fight with me against somebody else at a Eagles tailgate or something.
And Blue Collar, man, thanks for love. He says, stand up. Great job, guys. Bobby, can you give me 2 possible sleeper teams that might surprise, excluding the Giants?
Okay, so I think are the Cardinals considered? Actually, I don't think I think the Cardinals could be, but I think their division is tough. I think the Rams are going to bounce back. I don't know if that counts as a sleeper.
But they're in the same division as the Cardinals.
I know, but I still think the Rams are going to bounce back. They have a ton of talent. Sean McVay, we were talking about him being the next great coach a year ago. They were in the Super Bowl. So I think the Rams are going to bounce back. I think the Bears might come back and surprise. I actually think Foles is going to be pretty good in that Bears offense.
He fits the scheme.
Foles. And the Colts. And the Colts, I think the Colts are going to win the AFC South. How about that?
I completely agree with you on the Colts. They're my pick in the AFC South.
I think Hopkins is such a huge loss to Watson. Hopkins did so much. Watson's a great QB, but Hopkins was just an unbelievable playmaker, and I think they're really going to feel that loss.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love we're offensive line guys. Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the sport. I think it'll benefit Rivers, and I like some of the guys they drafted. They took the running back from Wisconsin. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor. I like that pick.
Jonathan Taylor. I was thinking Fred Taylor, the Jags running back.
And they took they took 2 players I liked early on in the draft.
Pittman, the receiver from USC.
Yeah, for the receiver from USC. So I like what the Colts did. I agree with them in the South. My deep sleeper, a lot of people laugh at me, and I might look like a fool. It's a former Belichick guy who coached underneath him. He's done horrible since he's gotten there. Don't sleep on the Lions. I'm
sleeping on the Lions.
You're sleeping on them? I got him as a team that might sneak up, win 8 games, sneak in that 7th seed. I like their offense. Maybe I'll look like a fool. Stafford got hurt last year. They went 0-8 when he was out. First 8 games, they were 3-4-1. They narrowly lost to the Chiefs. I don't know. I'm kind of buying the Lions low. I like them to win about 8 games.
I think they have a decent roster, but I mean, those guys. Doesn't everyone hate Matt Patricia on that roster?
Yeah, you might be right. And I guess that's what Giants fans are scared about with Judge, with all the reports coming out.
Yeah, but I think Patricia, the media was like, this guy's a slob. Like, he talks all this stuff, but he's late for everything. So I do think, like we were talking about with Judge, is be true to yourself. I think Judge is being way more true to himself than I think Patricia actually puts on more than what he really is. And I listened to an interview. He's just an unlikable guy. He's there's one thing to do the Belichick way, but he's not even good at doing that. I don't think, and players have said some really brutal stuff about him.
Do you think, and I'm going to get to these in 1 second, guys. Thank you guys so much for all the love. What do you think is the biggest reason? because whenever anybody talks about Belichick, when they talk about Judge, they talk about the failed Belichick coaching tree. It's very rare that you see a successful coach that coached underneath Belichick. Do you think that's the primary reason that a lot of these coaches just aren't their own man? Or do you think it's maybe circumstantial? Some of them went through situations like, for instance, Jim Schwartz. He went to the Lions after they went 0-16. Do you think some of them just go to really bad situations, or do you think it's that they try to copy Belichick too much and they're not their own man?
I think it's just hard to be an NFL head coach, and not most guys don't succeed, where it's like, look at everyone. Like, you can look at like Parcells, like look at Parcells' coaching tree, and yeah, you have Belichick. Well, actually, no, because you have screw that. Sean Payton's a great coach. But it's like you have like a Romeo Crennel, who was a horrible head coach in there. I really just think it's hard to be a head coach, and there's guys like Patricia who try to be Belichick, and they're not like that type of personality. I just think it's hard for me to pinpoint it, but I just think it's like most NFL coaches fail, and even the ones that like are successful end up failing. Like Andy Reid, he was fired by the Eagles after 10 years, led them to 4 NFC championships, Super Bowl, and they fired him after a couple bad years. It's just so hard to be a good NFL head coach.
It really is. It is really hard. Look at Coughlin. He won 2 Super Bowls and we fired him.
Yeah, I would never want to be an NFL head coach. Yeah, and they don't like. This sounds bad, but if you're an NFL head coach, you're basically like a bad parent. You can't spend time with your family. You could do like your couple weeks of vacation, but you are so dedicated, 20-hour days. Like you just can't be a good family man. Like you have no personal time. And you hear coach like Jimmy Johnson, where he's like, "What's the difference between like college and NFL?" He's like, "When I was coaching in college, I had a life. When I coached in the NFL, I had 0 life, and like it hurt me as a person." So it's just you have to be so dedicated, and some guys are, some guys aren't.
Yeah, 100%. JB, man, thanks so much for love. He says, "Who do you think is the backup head coach?" Okay, so I think he's kind of asking, who do you think will be if they were to promote somebody to be the head coach currently on this roster, if Judge doesn't work out? He lists Graham or Jason Garrett. Who do you think is the most likely guy to be a head coach if Judge were to be fired?
I'll say Graham, since he has the title as assistant head coach. So I'll go Graham, even though Garrett has not the success, but the resume. How scared were you when the Jason Garrett rumors were coming out for head coach?
Head coach, I was scared. And I thought it could happen because obviously he's got a really good relationship with the Maras. He played here. He was known as a good Giant. And obviously had a winning record with the Cowboys. So I said maybe they'll buy into that. Offensive coordinator, I love him.
Yeah.
But as a head coach, I was scared when I started hearing the rumors that Garrett was a possibility.
Yeah, and then we actually talked when you were on my show. You did the research because you're a nut, but I like to do my research. I researched every single head coach candidate, every single person they brought in, except for Judge. I was like, oh, he's a special teams coach. I don't need to do any research. And then they hire the one guy I didn't do any research on.
The funny thing is, I did a video, like you said. I just did it because I'm like, they're interviewing the guy. I might as well make a video on him, do a little research. I don't think they're going to hire him. He's 38 years old, a special teams coordinator. And that got the least amount of views out of all the other videos got like 8,000, 7,000, 6,000. That one got like 3,000. And
I bet it got a big jump, though, once it was announced.
It got a little spike after the fact. But when I did my research on Judge, I even said in the video, I said I could understand why they're bringing him in. And I even said I don't think they're going to hire him because he lacks the credentials. It's not the typical thing the Giants would do. He's never been a head coach. He's never been a coordinator. So I was surprised that they hired him, but I understood why they brought him in. The work ethic, who he learned under. The guy was going to, being a doctorate. He just seemed like a really smart guy, hardworking guy. So that's what stood out to me when I did my research with Judge, and it's kind of translated since he's been the head coach here.
Yeah, obviously we got to wait till we see it actually happen, but everything he's done has been pretty cool. Like the whole not naming guys at the start, now, like once he got to meet them and stuff, he started naming them. But at first I was like, why don't you like Jones is the QB, you could say his name. But then it was kind of explained and he can say good things about Jones and Saquon, but what happens when he's asked about Solder and they maybe have what happens if he gets asked about Alec Ogletree before he got cut and he has to give some lie and then they cut him and but the media holds every word against you. So I like that what he did, where it's like, I'm not going to talk about any guy because then you can't hold it against me. Like with Gettleman, when he says something, they hold stuff that he said, even if it was a joke from 3 years ago against him.
Right. 100%. That's another thing I think we agree on. We both like Gettleman. We'll talk more about Gettleman. Fix the O-line says, Tana, sorry I'm late, but this guy is good. He's really good. He says, how do we find his channel on YouTube? When I enter Bobby Skinner, the name of his channel is not Bobby Skinner. The name of his channel is Talkin Giants. That's the name of his channel, Talkin Giants. And he's also, I think your podcast is also called
Talkin Giants. Everything Talkin Giants.
Yeah, so Talkin Giants, if you listen to the podcast, they do a long podcast over there. Simon, man, thanks so much for the love. He says, a huge part of Bill's success, good coaching hires, 100%. And I think it's similar to the players that he brings in. He gets the most, similar to the players. You look at guys like Wes Welker, you look at all these guys that he's brought in the past, he gets the most out of them. And I think it's the same thing with the coaches. He brings in guys that he knows, and I think Judge copied that. I think he brought in a lot of guys that he knew were going to be really good at the roles that he brought them in for. But that's what Belichick's great at. I think he's great at diagnosing what roles he should bring guys in to do and how, and getting the most out of each individual guy, but maybe they're not necessarily great head coaching material.
A little thing that I like that Judge did is that he got a linebacker coach and then he got an outside linebackers coach in Bielema, because they're like Blake Martinez and O'Shane Ximines, they're both linebackers, but they don't play the same position. It's
right.
One's a pass rusher, one's like a quarterback of the defense. So I like that he got Bielema as like an outside linebackers coach, and then he got Kevin Serrat as the inside linebackers coach. So I like that it's like those little attentions to detail.
Yeah, they must have. And what's going on, Justina? What's going on, Kuzan? Thank you guys for being here. They must have gotten how many coaches they hired this year? That'd be like 15. But the thing that I loved most about it was familiarity. Every coach they brought in, he either coached with in the past or Jason Garrett coached with in the past. They all knew one another. And that's what I really liked. And they've all had a really good success in the roles that they were in the past. Freddie Kitchens was a good tight ends coach. Jason Garrett was a really good offensive coordinator. I think they hired an all-star coaching staff. I really do. And we'll see if it translates on the field. But at Bielema, I thought Bielema was a great kid. I didn't think they'd be able to get a guy with those credentials to come over here to be a defensive line coach. So I think they did a great job, the New York Giants, with the coaching staff.
Yeah, and Colombo, that's a guy that everyone likes. I wanted Bill Callahan, but like right after Bill Callahan, I wanted Colombo. So they got him over there. We remember him playing against us back in the day, coaching. Now he was coaching Dallas. I thought that was a really good get, was to bring Colombo over.
Bobby, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
I was talking about. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're up. Now I think you're better. Oh, you're frozen again.
Frozen. Can you see my
Maybe
thumbs up?
Is it me?
I can hear you fine.
You hear me? Okay.
No, you just broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're good now. Okay. What were we talking about?
I was talking about how much I like Mark Colombo.
Oh, basically. Mark Colombo. You're a big offensive line guy. One thing I'm interested to talk about, Colombo's coming in. He's changing the blocking philosophy. It's going to be more of a power blocking scheme, from what I understand. What do you think of the shift with that? And how do you think the offensive linemen that we have on the roster transition to that? Like a guy like Hernandez, from what I've heard, should do really well in this new scheme.
He should excel, man. And there's something I don't know why I was watching the Patriots offense, but I was watching it for some reason. And you notice with Hernandez, he'll have these huge hits, like in pass block. Like if he doesn't have anyone on the block, he'll go lay someone out. But something that the Patriots would do is if you didn't have work, they would literally like almost turn around and run back and then reset. And then you'd pick up guys that you maybe not saw at the beginning. So I hope Colombo does that stuff. But in the run game, I really think they should steal stuff from the 49ers. More pulling. And we've seen it in some clips in the scrimmage where they pull two guys at one time, down blocks. Steal that stuff from the 49ers. I really hope they do that. Like, obviously, you're going to do your regular zone blocking where it's just man on man. But there's no reason to not steal stuff from what the 49ers have been doing.
The 49ers, they had a really interesting offense this year. They used the I formation more so than anybody with the fullback. And they had a ton of pre-snap motion in the running game, and they said that had a lot to do with their success. Obviously, Shanahan's a great offensive mind, but yeah, I completely agree with you. I think a lot of teams are going to copy that. Yeah,
I mean, it's a copy. I know it's cliche, but it's a copycat league. And honestly, you're dumb if you don't go around. Like, if you're an offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, You should spend your offseason going and watching what every coach does and stealing stuff from it. Like Cliff Kingsbury, I remember I was watching some of his stuff before the Giants played the Cardinals, and everyone thinks like, oh, this crazy pass game. His run game is where he's the most creative. So I think things are changing in the NFL to where it used to be, I remember, growing up, and it'd be like, they don't pull in the NFL. Guys are too fast. But now the good running teams are pulling like crazy. So I hope they add some new stuff instead of just man on a man kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a question for Bigger Mike I wanted to answer. He says, question for Bobby. Do you think Giants fans underestimate how hard it is to grasp the expectations being put on him? Are you talking about Saquon Barkley? Not saying he can't, but I see plenty saying Saquon 2K scrimmage yards easy. What's your thoughts on Saquon Barkley this year? Mike's an Eagles fan, but what's your thoughts on Saquon Barkley this year? Do you think maybe the expectations are being set too high?
I feel like we're not talking about him enough, to be honest. I think they're like, if they added 3 carries per game, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I guess it is. If you add 3 carries per game and at his average, he leads the NFL in rushing, which would be like 1,550 yards, and then 450 receiving. That should be easy for like a guy like Saquon. So if he stays healthy, I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't. I mean, he had 2,000 yards his rookie year from scrimmage, didn't he? 1,300 rushing yards.
He led the league in scrimmage yards his rookie year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's high expectations, but that's the reason Saquon was taking that too, because those expectations have to be that high.
Yeah, I honestly think it's if he plays 16 games and he plays them healthy. We got to remember last year he was really only healthy for 5 games all year.
I mean, until the Packers game, like you saw it every time he did have a big play, he would come off hopping on one foot. Like he was definitely hurt after, like he came back early, but you could definitely tell he was still a little hurt.
Yeah, and with the and you factor in, you figure Jones will be a little bit better this year at reading, pre-snap reads, things like that. You figure the offensive line, at least in the second half, should be improved. And with a healthy Saquon Barkley for 16 games, I think 2,000 yards minimum should be the expectations from scrimmage.
That's something we actually haven't talked about, and we haven't talked about on our podcast a lot either, is that it seemed like Shurmur didn't let Jones make a lot of checks where they were running into, like, they would have one more guy than we had blockers, and we would run right into it. That could totally that can add so many more points or take turnovers off the field if they give Jones more freedom in it. And like you said, it can make teams have to play the pass a little more, and then makes it easier for Saquon to run. The offense, there's no reason for the offense, if Jones progresses like we think he should, to score points. But I think the big question for the team as a whole is, can the defense put us in position to let us outscore teams?
Yeah, 100%. To me, the biggest key to the season, and OGR, what's going on, man? Go over there and sub him up as well. But the biggest key to the season this year for the Giants, if we're going to win games, and I want to get your expectations as a whole on the team as well, is the run game. It's going to be controlling the clock with that offensive line. That you have to disguise that defense. I don't think we're the type of team that can get in the shootouts. I think you agree with me. I think like last year, if you look at the Giants, they were 27th or 28th in yards per drive. They weren't able to sustain drives because I don't always look at the time of possession because sometimes the defense could affect that. But the yards per drive is plays per drive rather, is strictly on the offense. They only averaged like 5 plays per drive last year. That has to improve dramatically. And we got to win the time of possession. If we can win the time of possession, we can win some football games. I think we could surprise some people, but it's going to come down to running the ball with Saquon Barkley and doing it successfully.
Yeah. The thing, I guess we won't go too far. It's just this year, man, our schedule's brutal.
Oh, brutal.
We play so many good, like really good teams. And I know, the NFL changes every year, but there's so many teams. It's like, like last year was like the weak schedule. Like we should have taken advantage of the weak schedule. This year, it's just brutal. But
you never know. With the COVID and everything else, you never know. But I agree. The schedule right now is challenging, to say the least. OGR, man, thanks so much for love. If you haven't done so, please go over there, show him some love. He says, damn, notifications, didn't know you were live. Keep up the good work, you lunatic. Let's go, G-Men. Also, Bobby, much respect. Yeah, Bobby's got a great podcast.
Much respect, OG. What does OGR stand for?
One giant rebuttal.
One giant rebuttal. All right.
Yeah, he comes
subscribe, and then I'll see the notification, and I'll subscribe back, OGR.
There you go. Yeah, he comes on here, and when I say stupid things, he rebuts me. That's what his channel's about.
I like it.
And Saeed, man, thanks so much for love. I appreciate it. He says, Are you concerned about Jones's pocket presence? Saeed says.
I think it's pocket like presence, like willingness to take a hit. That's one of my favorite things about Jones is that he's not like pressure doesn't faze him. But I think what separates the good from the greats is how you move in the pocket. Like, like Aaron Rodgers, like Tom Brady, how they move within the pocket. That's just something that needs to get better, and it gets better with time. So concerned about it, no, but definitely need, I actually think besides the fumbles, it's what he needs to improve on the most. Is because sometimes he would just float, and he'd float into pressure, where if he can, move up and move to the right a little bit. But also, Nate Solder was so bad last year. Unbelievably bad.
Both tackles were bad.
Yeah. I actually liked Remmers. I thought Remmers
maybe you liked him because you were seeing Solder. He gave up 40 pressures.
Yeah, that's true. But they led the league in sacks and pressures, I think. But I always compare it to this. I remember when I was a kid, Tracy McGrady and Juwan Howard were the leading scoring duo in the NBA. And it sure as hell wasn't because of Juwan Howard. It was because of Tracy McGrady. So Nate Solder, I think you're right, where Nate Solder was just so bad that it made Remmers look not as bad.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the pocket awareness is definitely the thing that I want to see improve the most. And also, I think he struggled against zone defenses last year. But I think that's common for rookie quarterbacks. But those are some of the things that I really want to see him improve on. You talked about his willingness to take a hit. I remember after they drafted him, and I calmed down because I wasn't happy when they first drafted him. When I looked at the tape, the first thing that really jumped out to me was exactly that. Well, he was at Duke. His willingness to take a hit. And Eli kind of had that same trait early on before he became shell-shocked because of Eric Flowers. But the guy is willing to take a hit. He stands in the pocket. He faces,
You can't teach that either.
What is that?
So that's something you can't teach.
Yeah.
Is that most QBs don't have that. And that that's what I love about Jones is the things that you can't teach, like accuracy. You can get better at accuracy with more arm strength and stuff, but accuracy, willingness to take a hit, and just like Eli, nothing phases him. He's just stone-faced, cold-blooded dude where nothing phases him. And there's only a few humans on the earth. I don't think Peyton's one of the greatest of all time. I don't think Peyton had that trait. You could tell when Peyton was a little rattled. I think there's very few guys that can just nothing changes the way they look at a game. And I think that's something that Jones has, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah, and when you play in New York, you need that. When you deal with the media, you're seeing Judge. That's one thing I like about Judge. Judge he's letting it roll right off the shoulder. He's playing with the media. He says, I don't care. And Eli had to do that. Eli didn't care. Everybody always said he didn't care. He had this all shucks attitude. And I agree. I think Jones has that. I think that's a major reason why the Giants drafted him. I think they took that into consideration for both players. Knowing with you look at Sanchez, for example, with the Jets. Sanchez, that guy, the littlest thing bothered him, and you saw what happened to him 2 or 3 years into his career. You have to have thick skin to be a successful quarterback in New York.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of going from Eli to Jones, where they're Jones can run, so they're not the same QB, but personality-wise, they're so similar. I when we have the beat reporters on the show, I love to ask him. I was like, man, you've been covering Eli for all this time. What's it like knowing that you're never going to have a good quote again with this new QB? He's never going to cause any controversy.
Yeah. And Jay, man, thanks so much for being here, man. He says, yo, football's almost here. Congrats on all the success. Thanks for bringing John Gruden onto the show. Gee, man. Yeah, I guess he thinks you look like John Gruden.
He may mean that as an insult, but I love it. John Gruden is one of my favorite football people in the world. I love the way the jokes he makes, the way he acts. I think he's one of the funniest people in the football world, so I love that.
John Gruden seems to like every quarterback ever.
It's crazy.
Be a guy in the 7th round. This guy's going to be the next Joe Montana. He likes every quarterback.
Yeah. I remember when Tim Tebow came out, and I was young and I wasn't studying the QB position, but he was just Tim Tebow is going to change the league. Yeah, but like you said, he likes everyone. He liked Nathan Peterman.
Right. Yeah, there you go. I got a question because I'm thinking about Tebow and how he should have transitioned to a tight end and everything else. Could you see Sills, being that he's a former quarterback, if he does make this team, having a little bit of Taysom Hill in him? Could you see that aspect?
No. He might have that in him, but I don't think they have any idea for that, any thoughts of that for him. That being said, you remember Eric Dungy, the Syracuse QB we had last year?
Yeah, see, that's what they brought him in for.
I wanted that so bad. He couldn't stay healthy, but I was all off season. I was like, bring Eric Dungy in, let him be that Taysom Hill role. They ended up cutting him because he couldn't stay healthy. But I would love to have that on our team. I just don't know if they have that thought for Sills.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And what's going on, Big Bang? Thanks for popping into the stream, my man. And a great show. Are you still concerned with the offensive line, though? It is really that much better than last year. I'm concerned, Brian McGowan says. All right, I'll start with this, and then I'll get into your question, OGR. As far as the offensive line goes, I am concerned going into the year. I mean, you have even though we both like Gates, he's never been a center before. We've got a rookie left tackle. We've got Cam Fleming probably on the right side to open up the year. You've got 3 new offensive linemen, and you know this better than anybody, being a former offensive lineman. You could put 5 all-stars out there. If they're not accustomed to playing with each other, it takes time to gel as a unit. And, you look at some of those great Giant offensive lines. They played together. They sucked at first. It took them a few years to get to the point where they were awesome. So I do think that they could struggle early on, in my opinion. But I do think it could be a lot like 2018, where the second half you really see them start to gel and be a good unit in the second half. But I do have worries. I'm not saying it's going to be definitive, but I do have worries at least for the first 5-6 games that we could struggle a bit on the offensive line.
I'll put it this way. Gates, I think, is a clear improvement at center.
Well, you can't be
I think that'll be one. Hernandez is going to play better. I have so much faith in Hernandez. Zeitler is Zeitler. Andrew Thomas, I love Thomas. I think he'll have some rookie struggles, but look at it this way. You can't have as bad as a season as Nate Solder had last year. You just can't. Like it's as bad as a season you can have at left tackle. And with Jones, hopefully improving in the pocket a little bit. And then Fleming worries me. I'll say that. If we were going to run the ball every time, I would say start Parrott. We talked about it earlier. Fleming is the right decision, even though Parrott would excite me. But Fleming worries me. I think he's going to struggle.
The 2 things that I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. The 2 things that I think are going to hopefully make this offensive line better isn't even guys on the offensive line. It's a healthy Barkley going into the season. They didn't have a healthy Barkley last year. Just the threat of him running, I think, helps the offensive line, and Daniel Jones being more experienced. They had an inexperienced quarterback last year. You look at the line last year, when Eli played the first 2 games, they played well. Daniel Jones came in, a guy that's wet under the ears. He's not used to playing in the NFL, so I think that had something to do with the offensive line struggles as well. So I think a more experienced Daniel Jones and a healthy Saquon Barkley, not to mention a guy who I think we both agree should be a better offensive line coach with Colombo. So right. I think all those factors, it should be a better offensive line, but I still think they're going to have struggles at least early on.
They'll definitely have games where they struggle. That like we said before, the competition this year on defensive line is just nuts. So they'll have games where they struggle, but I think overall they'll just be a much better unit. Yeah. I see McManus Design in the chat. He's one of my guys. I love him.
Oh, he always retweets my stuff on Twitter, man. What's going on, McManus, man? Thanks for being here, buddy. I saw Cop Pizzle was in here. Wanted to say hello to him. What I forgot what position group do you view as the biggest weakness? OGR says overall in the New York Giants, what position group is the biggest weakness? He asks.
Outside linebacker, maybe as a whole, even though there's a lot of guys you kind of like with Golden, Zimenez, Carter. But can I just say cornerback too with Corey Ballantyne? Can I just say Ballantyne's the biggest weakness?
Yeah, but you know what's ironic is the Giants have spent so much draft capital on the cornerback position, and it's still a weakness.
Justin said the other day, he's like, I hope we never draft a corner again. Just sign the best corners and free agents going forward. We'll spend all our cap space on corners, draft everything else.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I keep telling my subscribers, and they're getting upset about it. I'm not going to be shocked if they draft a corner in the first round next year because it's still a need. So I don't want them to. I'd much rather get an edge or a linebacker, but it is a need, particularly in this defense. Let's talk about this defense, this scheme that they're going to run. They're going to blitz a ton, and they're going to lead. I think they blitzed 40-something% of the time last year on third down, Patrick Graham, with the Dolphins, even though he wasn't calling the plays, I think, the second half of the year. But that means that you're going to be using your corners in man coverage, and they're going to be left out on an island. You need strong corner play, and I think this is going to be a swing or miss type. They're either going to hit a home run, they're going to get home to the quarterback, or I think they're going to let up a lot of big plays. I think it's going to be a risk-taking type defense.
Yeah. So I just pulled up some stats from Graham last year, tendencies. Does man coverage 50% of the time, which is crazy. Press man, he had 481 snaps with that, which was 5th in the NFL. The blitz total was 32%, which is 12th in the NFL. But like you said, on third down, he blitzed 41% of the time, which was 2nd in the NFL. And that was my big gripe with Betcher last year, was like, I'm not asking you to blitz every play, but we would get like 3rd, 7, 3rd, and 8, and he wouldn't blitz. He wouldn't get any pressure, and it was just easy for QBs. And I finally got so mad that after the Jets game, I went and broke it down. I was like, here's all the third downs where we didn't blitz. And Darnold was like 6 for 7 with a touchdown and 100+ yards. And here's them when we did blitz, and he was like 1 for 6 and was just horrible. And it's like, please just blitz on third down. Don't give them all day on third down. So, listen, we'll probably have struggles, but as long as we just play aggressive, that's my biggest thing on defense. I know it sounds cliche, but just play aggressive. I hate passive defense.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get it. I think this is going to be a very aggressive defense, and I think sometimes you're going to give up a 70-yard touchdown because of it, but you're also not going to have those plays where you're pulling your hair out. How many times did the Giants have 3rd and 15s, 3rd and 14s last year, 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 11s, where the corners are playing 15 yards off, they're in zone coverage, and they get their easy curl pattern for 12 yards and a first down?
That was the other thing. It'd be 3rd and 7, and our corners would be lined up 8 yards back. It's like, well, of course they're not going to do good. We're doing this, and then James Betcher infuriated me. I could spend an hour on all the things that he did that pissed me off. And I'm not a guy that turns on coaches quickly. Like, I gave Shurmur more leash than most people, but Betcher, dude, from early on, I was like, Betcher's not the guy. Like, I couldn't stand what I saw from him last year.
Oh God, and I liked when they hired Betcher because I remember watching him at Arizona. And they seemed like an aggressive defense, and maybe they never had the right pieces. It kind of felt like they were trying to fit square pegs in the round holes because they didn't have the personnel here when he got here to really fit his scheme.
What I figured out with Betcher is that he took over a defense from Todd Bowles in Arizona with great players and basically just copied and pasted. And then when he came to the Giants and didn't have the great players, I don't think he really knew how to coach. So, like you said, I love the hire of Betcher because of like he was brought in to be aggressive. He just came here and wasn't that guy.
Yeah, he wasn't. Lax, man, thanks so much for love. I appreciate it. I think Hernandez's struggles last season was the product of being surrounded by an atrocious tackle and center. Yeah. I think that definitely has a lot to do with it, Lax. I mean, Solder and Jalapeno. I mean, how many times did Jalapeno give up pressure up there? It seemed like every drive there was a guy coming free right up the middle every time.
Yeah, and just mental mistakes. And like you said, playing next to Solder certainly didn't make things easy on him.
Solder might have been the worst left tackle in football last year. MMKG, man, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it. The entertainer Will Wag. Okay, Waterfly, I appreciate you for being here. If you guys haven't done so, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell. But the more important thing that I want you to do, if one of my mods could post it in the chat, and I'm sure they can, please go over to Bobby's YouTube channel, Talkin Giants. He's doing a great job tonight. Would love to have him and Justin back on, or I go in there, whatever. We'll love to work with you guys throughout the season, man. I'm definitely having a really good time tonight. And thank you again for coming on, man.
Of course, man. Like we said before, man, had to do this. Well, we don't do interviews in season. Well, maybe we'll do some YouTube stuff because in season it gets so crazy. But I'm going full time now, so I'll have more time. Man, you know the grind. When you're doing a regular job in this, it gets crazy. So it'll be interesting to see how I'm able to do it this year. But we'll definitely be doing stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm having a really good time. So he says, ask Bobby if pocket presence is an instinct or something that can be taught. Saheed says regarding Daniel Jones.
I'm not an expert, so I don't really know, but I feel like it can be taught. I feel like Aaron Rodgers got better at that. But I feel like all the greats, I don't think they came in with great pocket presence. So my gut would say yes, but I can't say it for sure on that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's something that it may not necessarily could be taught. I think it's something that it's kind of like riding a bike or doing anything in life, like making videos on YouTube. The more that you do it, it's kind of like doing a job and you kind of have to fail at first. I feel like your pocket presence should improve by failing, and maybe you develop that throughout. But I don't know if it's necessarily something that you.
That's a better answer. Where like, okay, so like you're saying, it can't be like taught where it's like, hey, move to the left here.
You have
like you said
to throw the ball the proper way. It's not like that. It's kind of a feel.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like your answer better than mine.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Bobby. Let's see what we got here. didn't Russell Wilson have bad a lot of quarterbacks? I did a video on that. A lot of Tom Brady had bad fumbling issues when he first came in. Tony Romo had horrible fumbling issues when he first came in. There's a number of quarterbacks when you go and look at it that it's a common thing. A lot of Lamar Jackson fumbled like 14 times in his rookie year. So there's been a number of quarterbacks that have had fumbling issues in their first year.
I'm trying to find it. I tweeted it out. Let me give me like 5 seconds, see if I can find it.
But
I did the leaders in fumbles. I have so many tweets that say fumble because of Daniel Jones, so I'm not gonna be able to find it. All right, but anyways, I went through all the fumble leaders, and it's like the best QBs in the game like led it at some point in their career.
Yeah,
more recently, Lamar Jackson, like you said.
Maybe not Peyton. There was a lot of great quarterbacks.
Big Ben did one year. Russell Wilson 1 year. So yeah, like you said, there's a lot of guys that have led it.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. How many picks did Manning throw in his? You talking about Eli Manning? I don't know how many off the top of my head, but he was hard. I think he only had like 6 touchdowns. He was
6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, I believe.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Eli, I love Eli. My favorite Giant ever. I love Eli to death, but Eli Manning was bad his rookie year. He was really bad.
Okay, let's be honest. After year 2, were you like, I wish we would have just stayed with Phillip Rivers? Because Rivers looked hot when he first came in with the Chargers. They had an amazing team, and you look back at it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you what, man. I remember watching, I think it was his second year of the game against the Eagles where they had the 17-point comeback?
I think so, because that was Plaxico's first year. Yeah,
and after that game, I remember being to myself, we got something. I remember saying to myself, we got something here. So I felt comfortable after his second year, and I kind of, maybe in his third year, I was kind of like, after I saw the way he played in the playoffs against the Panthers also in his second year.
Yeah.
But I started to gain a little bit of trust in him after that game.
The Broncos game, because that year, too, he had all those comebacks. The Broncos game was the game where I'm like, okay, this guy's got it. But it wasn't like negative Eli. It was just Phillip Rivers. I mean, those Chargers teams were going 14-2. They were so good. And then when you look back at it, it's like, that team had so much talent. The fact that they didn't win a Super Bowl, I feel like should count against. Like, I like Rivers, but I feel like that should count against Rivers more than people like say, because like that team was unbelievably talented and they lost in the second round. Let's
get to Machiavelli. He says, and thank you for being here. He's a Redskin fan, because I want to talk Gettleman with you. He says, love the show. Is Gettleman under the clock if the Giants go under 500? Do you think Gettleman could be in big trouble?
I think there's a good shot Gettleman gets fired after this year, or like he retires, quote unquote, kind of thing. I don't want to say under 500 because I feel like if we finish at 7-9, I feel like we can kind of feel good if the offense if Jones and the offense is putting up numbers, but the defense struggles. I think you feel good about it. But yeah, man, I like Gettleman's drafting. There's some stuff that like the Leonard Williams trade, I'll just never understand. I understand it, but I just don't understand it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff I don't like about Gettleman. The biggest thing, though, is that one is teams are there's no more patience left. And the scary thing is the idea of having a coach and a GM off schedule. Like, where usually they come in at the same time. So that's where it's like, I like Gettleman, but part of me at the end of the season, it's like, hey, if you're going to fire Shermer, you might want to fire Gettleman because you get off schedule. That being said, I like Joe Judge, and I think they'll work well together. But yeah, if Gettleman's fired after this year, I won't be surprised at all.
No, and I like Gettleman, and I wouldn't be surprised either. And I had the same exact mindset. I stick up for Gettleman all the time, and I will bash him for the Leonard Williams trade, but I do think a lot of fans go above and beyond to bash him. I think he's done a lot of good things. You brought up Nick Gates. I mean, nobody talks about those moves, but they'll talk about the small misses that he has. But I think Gettleman is a decent to good GM, and I think he was given a horrible situation. But I kind of had the same process as you last year. When they moved on from Shermer, you kind of want a fresh start. We had that same problem with Jerry Reese. When they fired Coughlin, they brought in a new head coach. You had a GM trying to save his job, and he went out there and spent like a lunatic his first year here. They go 11-5 because they, and then they set us up for cap hell for the foreseeable future. I was glad to see Gettleman didn't do that. Gettleman did not go, quote-unquote, hog wild in free agency. He drafted for the future. A lot of these guys he drafted are guys that are going to contribute 2 years from now. Shane Lemieux, guys like that. So I commend Dave Gettleman for that. But by the same token, it may cost him his job because of that.
Yeah, because there's just, like you said, there's no patience. And like Parrott, Lemieux, those guys might end up being great, but it's like Gettleman might not get to see of it. But I do think there's a path where they move on from Gettleman and put Kevin Abrams in the GM role. Because the Giants are a family business. Sometimes it's annoying. Then there's sometimes where like you see Mara crying at Eli's presser and you love it. So I mean, I don't want to give predictions on total stuff that I'm just pulling it out of my ass. But like long story short, there's a path for Gettleman to be fired at the end of the year. Yeah,
and I think Mara said it. He said he was at a press conference and he basically said that things better get better. And he's not talking about Joe Judge. He just hired him. Who do you think he's talking about?
Right.
So, yeah, I think there's pressure. I don't know if it's got – I would guess 5 wins or less. 6 wins, I think that there's wiggle room there because there's some improvement against the tough schedule. 6 wins, I think he might probably stay. 7 wins, I think he definitely stays. But, yeah, that's just my opinion. Let's see what we got here. Thank you guys for being here, man. I really appreciate it, man. He says Joe Judge will be the next GM, JC says. Well, that's possible, and I am completely with you if they do move on from Gettleman and maybe they want to give Judge more say with the player personnel, but I think they should hire from within with Abrams because what I worry about is a team that you were talking about earlier, the Arizona Cardinals. If you bring in a new GM, who's to say he comes in here and he's like, I don't like Daniel Jones. I don't like Dexter Lawrence. I don't like Saquon Barkley. You don't know. Like we just went through this 2 years ago where Gettleman came in and he said, no, Beckham's gone. Collins is gone. He got rid of everybody that wasn't his guy. What do you think the new GM is going to do if you bring somebody in completely from outside the organization? So if they are going to make a change, I think it should be from within.
Yeah, GMs have egos. And like, you know, I have an ego. It's like, I want to build things my way. Like, I don't play much Madden anymore, but when I would do franchise, I would trade everybody to start because I'm like, I want to build my team my way. Like you said, I mean, that's something you could look at Gettleman. It's like, dude, you didn't have to get rid of like everybody and bring in Curtis. Like we could have kept Andrew Adams or Darius Thompson and not started Curtis Riley kind of stuff. But yeah, like you said, a new GM likes to change things because they want it to be their way. So it's that's kind of the danger when you move around. And you know, I believe Jones. I think Jones is going to be the guy. But it is weird being in a different era where my entire life since 7th grade, I've known who the quarterback is in Eli Manning. And now it's like, all right, I believe in Jones as much as anybody, but there's still like is he going to be the guy kind of thought in your head?
Yeah, 100%. We don't know it yet. And, you know, we didn't really know it. We really didn't know it. Like in my heart, I could say I knew it, but I didn't really know it until he won that first Super Bowl. You know, even going into those playoffs, I remember people saying, like, I don't know if he's going to be the guy. You know, he was mediocre that 4th year in the league. So until we really see Jones turn a corner, there's no way we could definitively know. We could believe it, but there's no way we could definitively know until we really see success.
Right.
Gettleman should have 2 more years if he goes 6-10. I agree, Cheese Whiz. I would like to see at least another year. I want to see him carry out the rebuild, but like Bobby said, it's kind of a league now with pressure. I mean, the team's won 12 games over their last 3 years. There's going to be pressure from the fans, from the media. Everybody knows it. And Gettleman's next on the chopping block. And part of my conspiracy theory was because I kind of thought like you did when they fired Sherman. I was like, even though I like Gettleman, I like what he's been doing, I could understand if they fired the two. And part of me thought, and maybe I could be completely wrong. This is just a theory. Part of me thought that they kept Gettleman to protect Judge and Jones. Because by keeping Gettleman, the wrath of the fan base won't turn to Daniel Jones year 2. It'll turn to Dave Gettleman. They have somebody to blame still before they get to Jones and they get to Judge. Part of me thought that could have been the reason why they decided to keep Gettleman.
Yeah, but you know the fan base, they will turn quick.
Oh, yeah.
Here's something have you noticed the only time should we move, should Trevor Lawrence, those only happen the further we get away from watching Jones play. Like it happened in the season last year. When did it happen? After 2 weeks of him being injured. That's when PFF started saying their stuff like, oh, the Giants should draft Tua, blah, blah, blah. People having that conversation. And then he comes in, he balls out. And then as we get further away from the season, we start having these questions again. And I remember there's an account, and I can't stand people who are like accounts that are like people that cover the NFL and they just they just look for the negative. And I'm not even going to shout out his name, but he does quarterback stuff. And he went and clipped Daniel Jones' deep ball stuff and said, like,
oh, I know I know.
And he did all the incompletions. He didn't show a single completion. And then so what I did, because the fan base was like retweeting it and being like, what do you think about this? I did at the end of the year, I broke down each game, his deep balls from each game, clipped them, the stats. And I quote tweeted, I was like, don't forget about this. Go through this and then give me your opinion. Watch every throw, not just the bad ones. And then you saw people's minds go like, oh, yeah, we forgot about what Jones can actually do.
Yeah, well, you could always twist something a certain way if you have an agenda.
Yeah. Just Jones ball out this year so we can never have this conversation again. How about that?
Eli Manning won a Super Bowl. We were having the conversation the next year.
Yeah, you're right.
It's inevitable, and that's why you need thick skin if you're in New York. Whether you're the coach or whether you're the quarterback, it's going to happen. It's New York. We're not patient people, Bobby.
Yeah.
We're just not. I preach it, but even I'm not a patient person. Who do you think will improve the most on both sides of the ball? Christian Bonamo wants to know.
On defense, I'll say Zimenez. I think Zimenez has the most room to improve. So I'll say Zimenez on defense. On offense, gosh, Caden Smith maybe, Slayton. I don't know. I'll say Slayton. Why not? Because he can refine. He had a good rookie year, but there's things he can refine about his game, and he can be a 10+ touchdown year. So I'll say Slayton.
I'm gonna go Daniel Jones on the offense. And it may not even be in the statistical area, but I think he's going to improve the fumbling problems a lot.
That's true. Why didn't I say Jones? We just talked about Jones for like 15 minutes, and I forgot about Jones.
I'm gonna go DJ, but the guy that's gonna go unnoticed that I also think could be very improved on the offense is Hernandez. I think Will Hernandez is gonna have a much improved year, mainly due to the fact that he's gonna be surrounded by more talented linemen. But I think Hernandez will definitely be much better this year. And I'm going to go Daniel Jones. And on the defense, listen, man, I keep saying it. I think Dexter Lawrence is going to have a big sophomore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Dex, man. I think you're going to see him more active in terms of getting after the quarterback, maybe not necessarily getting sacks, but collapsing the pocket. I think you'll see more batted balls at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to go Dexter Lawrence.
Dex can be dominant, man. He has all the talent to be a dominant, like Fletcher Cox type defensive tackle.
He's a dancing bear, man. He's 342 pounds. He can move like he's 280.
It's crazy. Like you said, yeah, let him be. I want Zimenez to be it just because that edge pressure. But yeah, Dexter Lawrence, I think he's going to have a really good year too. Yeah,
I'm a big Dex guy this year, man. If Thomas what's going on, Dollar Man? Next pop in the stream. Let's see what we got here. Wanted to get Bobby's opinion on DJ struggling in bad weather. Jawad, man, by the way, great subscriber of mine, man. Thank you for being here. Yeah, last year that was something that people talked about, and it was evident. I mean, against the Cardinals, I remember calling that game. It was pouring rain. Struggled badly in that game. So did our defense. We couldn't stop Chase Edmonds. He ran for like 200 yards on us. And then the game, I think he had a game later in the year too where he struggled. I can't remember who it was against. But
the Eagles.
Maybe it was the Eagles. Both were in really bad weather conditions. Is that something that you worry about a little bit?
All right, so there's 3 games. The Cardinals game, that one didn't bother me at all because in that game, the issue wasn't the weather because he was accurate and stuff. It was that he was holding onto the ball way too long and he wasn't hitting the guys underneath because he was looking downfield. In fact, that was a game where he got sacked 8 games, and I went down and broke down all of those sacks. I think 4 were on Jones because he was just like super locked in downfield. And then you saw the following week where you could tell he was more cognitive of the underneath. The next one would have been Green Bay in the snow. His best drive of the year was in that Green Bay game when it was snowing the hardest, the second drive of the game where he had the touchdown to Shepard. And then he hurt his ankle, and then he had that one float. The first interception to Slayton was it was actually a really good game plan on the defense because they knew Slayton liked to run those comeback routes, and they had King play underneath last second. And then, the one that got sailed. And then the other one was just like a deep ball, like jump ball to Slayton, and the cornerback got it. So that one didn't alarm me. And then the Eagles game where you had like 2 or 3 underthrows to Shep in the rain. That's really the only one that bothered me. And that that would be the only one that would put like a red flag. But the Arizona game and the Green Bay game, the weather, nothing from that really bothered me.
Okay. Yeah, because that was a theme last year. A lot of people talked about that and how they thought that the weather could have been a reason why he was struggling as much as that maybe he doesn't play
A
good.
lot of it was that Miami Hurricanes game because he like in college, they're like, look at his inaccurate passes. If you remember that game, it was like a tropical storm in that game. Like, go back and watch it, and it's just like they were like running in total mud. And even like they won that game. He had some really good passes, but there was like a few like really inaccurate ones. But that game was like it was like 30+ mile per hour winds in that game or something.
The Patriot game had bad winds too last year. Remember that game?
Yeah, and he was pretty, Now, he didn't have a good game because the Patriots defense was so good, but like throwing the balls accuracy-wise, he was fine. I mean, he had that pass to Tate, so accuracy-wise, he was fine in that game. He just had some bad decisions.
Yeah, I mean, which makes sense. I mean, I give him a complete pass for that game. You're going against Bill Belichick in New England without any of your weapons. Barkley was
John Hilliman. John Hilliman is the worst Giants running back to start a game in the 21st century. I'm serious. I went and there's not a single Giants running back who started a game that was worse than John Hilliman in the 21st century.
You're probably right. Blue Collar, man, thanks so much for love. I appreciate it. He says, Bobby, 3 quick questions. They better be quick, Blue Collar. What is an NFL rule change that you want to see changed? I'll let you start with that one, and then we'll get to the next one. What's an NFL rule that you would like to see changed potentially?
Well, they changed the one with the pass interference review where they got rid of that. So that's one I would like to change.
What a waste. They never overturned it.
Yeah, it was the referee. I almost feel like they told the referees to not overturn it so they could change the rule back.
Right.
I would say change the onside kick rule back to the way it was. I get they want to stay healthy, but it's like impossible to get an onside kick. So I would do the onside kick where you can like load one side up and get a chance of getting it. And yeah, I guess that would be the rule change I would like to see.
Okay.
And then what was the second one?
Next one we got is, do you think they should change the Lombardi Trophy to the Belichick Trophy?
No, because I like tradition, so I don't like changing tradition. So I love Belichick, but I'm a tradition guy. Huh?
They're not going to change. He got caught for cheating.
Yeah. Hey, we can't slander Belichick too much. He's our guy,
And he says, why did you not do any more? Oh, why did you not do any more movies after Rocky IV?
If he dies, he dies. I've been called that before, so I like that. People are good. People are hitting with the jokes today with the Gruden stuff, so I like that.
You're a movie guy?
I mean, I've seen the Rocky ones.
Yeah.
I like comedies.
Yeah.
I like Jim Carrey a lot. Jim Carrey is probably my favorite actor of all time.
Jim Carrey's great. Jim Carrey's phenomenal. Let's see what we got here. You forgot Ron. Oh, Ron Dane was horrible as well.
Yeah, but Ron Dane was better than John Hilliman.
Yeah, I mean, at least
we hate him more because he was because of where he's picked. But John Hilliman, I mean, I don't even know why they put him on the practice squad. He was so bad.
He was. I'm glad. It sounds like you're really glad that we cut him. Who do you think will lead the team in sack? We already answered that earlier. That was Zimenez, you said.
I said I want it to be Zimenez, but I think Golden.
That's what it was. Yeah. Here we go. New Jersey Jake's got a question. Bobby, what are your thoughts on the Jake's one of my best subscribers in my Discord. We talk all the time. He is big on the Steelers. And I want to get your thoughts on the Steelers because we're playing them week 1. So he says, Bobby, what are your thoughts on the Steelers? Are me and Bigger Mike crazy for saying they can go 10-6 and finish second in the division? I say the Browns go 8-8 or 9-7.
I think I'm right with you. I actually think I did my prediction. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I have it in my drafts. But I think the Steelers are going to be good. I think, it all depends on Big Ben, obviously. Hot take, the QB matters. But they got so many guys on defense. TJ Watt.
Dupree.
Minka Fitzpatrick, who I love.
Yeah.
They've got so many guys. Let's see. I think I did have the Browns at 8-8. I have the Steelers at 11-5 and the Browns at 7-9. So those are my predictions for the season for those two.
Wow. So you're not high on the Browns at all.
I'm not a big Baker Mayfield guy. But I think with Stefanski, with them adding Conklin, and Wills, I do think that offense can put up some points because they're going to do so many I think they're going to run their offense the same way the Vikings did. And I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan, and they were pretty productive too. So
I'm gonna tell you what, man. If Mayfield can't get it done this year, and we're gonna get to see him firsthand, week 14, I think it is. If Mayfield can't get it done this year, he's never gonna get it done. I mean,
right.
They brought in Conklin. They drafted, I think it was Wills. They added a really good tight end in Hooper. If he can't get it done this year, he's not getting it done. Nick,
I agree.
Thank you so much for the love, Nick DeWick. Little mustache super sticker. I appreciate that. What is the key to the game for you against the Steelers? We obviously play them week 1. We know they've got edge rushers, right, with Watt and Dupree. What's the key to the game in that game if the Giants stand a chance to win?
All right, so biggest thing on the offense is we have a rookie offensive tackle named Andrew Thomas. I love him, but it is his first game, and they have some good pass rushers. So use your tight ends in Tololo, Caden to help and block, but also, like, it sounds simple, but run the ball and then set up some play action. But something, I'm not a big analytics guy, but something I do love about analytics is throw the ball on first down, whether it's a quick throw or what, and then that sets up for second down runs on offense. And then the defense is making sure Bradbury and Logan Ryan are the guys covering Juju Smith. And don't let them put Juju Smith where Corey Ballantyne is. Make sure those two guys are covering Juju at all times. And I think that can limit their offense if we can slow down Juju.
Interesting. Yeah, it's got to be the run against that team, in my opinion. We have to run. If Jones has 30, 35 pass attempts in that game, I don't think we're going to win. In my opinion, I think they got to try to run the ball as much as possible with those pass rushers that Pittsburgh has. I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is great. I think if the Giants could score 20, 21 points and they could control the clock, I think they could win that game. Obviously, they've got to limit the turnovers and maybe force a couple. But I do think if they could win the time possession, run the ball, that's definitely their best chance to win that game, similar to the way we beat the Chicago Bears 2 years ago. So I think that's got to be the strategy going in.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see what we got here. If you had to pick one player from each side of the, we already answered that question, Matthew. But Chris, Luke wants your not happening, Nick DeWick. But let's see what we got here. Ryan, want to just get a couple more questions from you guys. We already answered that one. Whose scheme do you think is better, Patrick Graham's or Jason Garrett?
I'll say Garrett, because Garrett has had successful offenses. I like what Graham does. It's a lot of man coverage, which I like, but I like what Patrick Graham does. I'm giving him a chance, but I'm also not like sold on Patrick Graham, because just the Dolphins defense was so bad. Now I know the players are horrible, but I just haven't seen it from Graham yet, where I've seen Garrett have successful offenses. And the way Garrett has used the tight end, we have Ingram, we have Caden Smith. If we could set that up and run the ball the way they ran Zeke, I mean, there's no reason for us to not have a super successful offense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also think Garrett's set up for much better success than Graham is. I think we've gotten much more talent, at least established talent, on the offensive side of the football right now. So if you ask me who's going to have more success, I think just by default, the offense should be better. And like you said, we've never seen Graham have success, albeit he had very little talent with Miami. So I'm definitely going with Garrett, and I think they have the pieces. I still think they might be a year away till we really see the offense gel, because I think they need another maybe primetime wide receiver. I think the offensive line needs to develop a little bit more, but I definitely think the offense is more advanced, and I'm definitely going with Garrett. I think he's going to be a fine offensive coordinator.
Right.
Let's see what we got here. I got you, Waterfly. Thank you guys. What's going on, Machiavelli? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. Steelers are a tough draw. See, the Steelers are a tough draw the first game, but I think they're a good draw. Like, I think because they're a team that we're going to kind of get a good measurement of where the Giants are, because they're not like the Ravens, and
right.
they're like to me, I'm not as high on them as you are. I don't think they're an 11-win team. I think they're more like an 8 or 9-win team. To me, they're like a middle of the road to slightly above average team that we really get to see where we stand. And I like that we're playing the Steelers week 1. I think it's a good team to be playing the first week.
Yeah, like it's a team you think could be good, but it's also a team that you don't like. You're not going in being like, gosh, the Giants really don't have a chance. It's going to have to take a miracle. So yeah, I'm on the same page with you for that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if we beat
and it's not Dallas either, so that's nice.
Yeah, well, we play Dallas week 1 every year. It seems like it's like a written law. And Nick DeWick, man, thanks for the love. He says, smash that like button. Chris deserves more. Thank you so much, Nick, and I really appreciate that. But the guy who deserves more is Bobby, going over to Talkin Giants after the stream. And
yeah, you've already got like every subscriber that's a Giants fan on YouTube already.
Go over there and subscribe to him. Who is the worst current head coach in the league? Well, I'd have to think about that. Who did I thought?
Matt Patricia.
Patricia's bad. Quinn's pretty bad. I thought he was going to be fired. How about Gaze? He's not very good on the Jets.
Gase, man, and I thought I thought Gase was a good offensive mind. Gase, it's just bad. He just doesn't know how to control a team. Like everywhere he goes, the players end up hating him, and it seems like he's not that great of an offensive mind either. So yeah, I think it's Gase.
Yeah, I mean, you knew that the first conference with the eyes. You know, you knew it wasn't going to work out for Gase.
Yeah, some guys are just meant to be coordinators and not head coaches.
Yeah, like pretty much Eric Mangini, every guy that goes over there.
Yeah,
and us as well. Pat Shermer, Ben McAdoo. Rudy, man, thanks so much for the love. I appreciate it. He says, as fans, we manage expectations, and thus 500 is a stretch. What do you guys think the GM, coaches, and players expect from this season? Let's go Giants. I'll start with that. I think they expect playoffs. I do, and I'm not saying that it has to be playoffs, but if you're a coach in this league, if you're a player in this league, I don't think you go into any season going into the year and saying, my goal is to win 6 games. I think that Joe Judge this year is thinking this team can make the playoffs. I think that's his goal. It might not be the most realistic goal if you're looking at it from an unbiased perspective, but you have to go in with that mentality if you're a head coach in the NFL. It's such a high-pressure position. You could be out of a job in 2 years. We've seen it with the last 2 head coaches. So I think it's got to be playoffs for Joe Judge. I think that's his goal, at least, going into the year. Yeah,
I agree. And you got to have athlete brain. I go into, even if I don't think the Giants are going to be good, I go into every game thinking Giants are going to win this game. Just because, like, that's the athlete brain in me. It's like I refuse to have a loser's mentality. So coaches, players, definitely. But I bet you Dave Galman behind the scenes is trying to temper expectations a little bit so he doesn't get fired if they don't meet him.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Gettleman's like, well, we might only win 5 or 6 games. But I think Judge is going in with that mentality of, we got a shot to make the playoffs. So that's the way you have to feel if you want to be successful at anything in life. You might be pushed up against it, but you got to believe in yourself. And I think that as a successful head coach, I think that's got to be the mindset going in. And we'll do this for about another 15 minutes, guys. I appreciate everybody for being here. So get your questions in. Alex says, Chris and Bobby, how many touchdowns and passing yards do you we already talked about that, Alex. We both had him around 3,500, 27, 28 touchdowns. Alex. Let's see what we got here. How many games in with no wins you guys decide the season is done? Fabian says. All right, here's what I'll say. I don't think the season's ever done, to be completely honest with you. It's in terms of the playoffs, sure. But I think this is a very important season. I don't care if we start 0-8. We have such a young team. We need this team to get better over the course of the season. I keep saying it. This is not a Super Bowl team this year. This is a team that we want to see. My goal this year at the end of the year is to have an identity. To be able to say at the end of the year, going into 2021, I'm confident that we're going to be this type of football team and we're going to be able to jam the ball down your throat. Really, that's where I want us to be by year's end. So even if we're 0-8, I want to see improvement over the course of the year. In terms of the playoffs, I mean, we got to start 2-2. I mean, when you look at our schedule, and I know it's not going to be easy. First 2 games, you got the Steelers, the Bears. I think the Bears are winnable. I think the Rams are winnable, even though it's in LA. I think we got to find a way to start 2-2. If we're 1-3, it's going to be tough sledding. So I would say 2-2 after 4 games if we have any hope to make the playoffs. But then you got division games coming up after that, so anything can happen. But to be somewhat confident that we have any shot at the playoffs, I say 2-2 in the first 4 games.
I just don't want to lose 9 games in a row like we did last year. That was so brutal, Chris. Yeah. I'm a positive person, and I just lost it towards the end of that. For our podcast during the season, for the post-game show, we have 2 intros. One is a victory, from like the SpongeBob scene, and the other one is "Loser" by Beck. So victories if we win, "Loser" by Beck. And when we won that Dolphins game, it just felt so good to put the victory song. We just can't go on those huge losing streaks. I can't deal with that. That was so miserable last year. That it's like we haven't felt what it likes to win in 3 months. It was miserable. Yeah,
and it's been that way the last couple of years with the Giants, and hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Grim, man, thanks for the love, man. I really appreciate it. Favorite Giants beat writer? I like Vacchiano, but he's not necessarily strictly Giants. Jordan Rannon of ESPN's one. Who's the guy that I always look at on Twitter? What's his name? I forget. I'm not good with names. What about what's some of the Giant beat writers that you like?
I would say Dan Duggan to me is the best one.
Dan Duggan's good, yeah.
The Athletic. I like Art a lot.
Art Stapleton, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Art's good. We finally got him on the show a few weeks ago. Zach Rosenblatt's the new one. He likes us a lot, so I'll say him. Go give Zach Rosenblatt some love. I think we're actually going to have him on the show for Friday after the scrimmage. But I'd say Dan is the best because you can't. Dan, he's not a homer, and he's not like just looking to be negative like a guy like Matt Lombardo is. And I try to be nice to everyone, but I will flat out say Matt Lombardo I can't stand.
Yeah, Lombardo's the guy for NJ.com, right?
Yeah, and Rosenblatt works at NJ.com, and I like him. It's just I can't stand Lombardo.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody. If I had to pick one, I would completely agree with you on that. Sometimes he makes articles where I just roll my eyes.
He does it for the clicks. Like
yeah.
He does it for the national media to come and quote tweet his tweets and like, oh, LOL Giants. I can't stand Lombardo, and I would say that to his face.
I think I'm in complete agreement with you on.
I think all Giants fans are for the most part.
I think I'm in complete agreement with you on that. Last year was unwatchable because the team just gave up. I don't think the team gave up last year. I just think that we had a lot of injuries. I think the last year with McAdoo, the team gave up.
Oh, yeah. They definitely gave up with McAdoo. Like you said, I don't think they ever gave up on Shermer. But, yeah, McAdoo, was a total give up.
Yeah, I just think we had a ton of injuries last year, an inexperienced quarterback.
We were so young, too. We had the second youngest roster, only to the Dolphins, who were playing, like, basically all rookies besides Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, McAdoo, we definitely gave up. But 2017 is my least favorite season ever as a Giants fan. Went into that year with Super Bowl aspirations.
Everyone was like, everyone's like Super Bowl, like sleeper Super Bowl pick that year. And going into it, it was like, all right, we love this team. It's just how good is the O-line going to be? Then all our wide receivers get hurt. McAdoo benches Eli, which is the most like outrage I've ever been as a fan. That year was just miserable.
Oh, it was horrible. Edward says, do you like the price the Giants got Logan Ryan at? I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. At first it was reported as $7.5 million. It didn't even work out to be that. It was like, I think it was like $5.5, $6 million with bonus incentives or something like that.
Yeah.
How could you not? I mean, this was a guy that was supposed to be getting $9 or $10 million at the start of free agency over 2 or 3 years. So I love the price that they got him at.
Yeah, going into free agency, I didn't want Logan Ryan because I wanted either Byron Jones. I wanted Byron Jones because I thought he was awesome, but Bradbury would have been second on that. So I thought Bradbury was the best signing, and then it's like you get Logan Ryan for like half the money. How, like you said, how could you not be happy? It's basically if he plays 90% of the snaps, it's a $6.5 million deal. So yeah, it's hard to not be happy with it.
Same thing with the Golden deal. I thought they got great value out of both of those.
That was crazy, that move, however they figured that out.
Yeah, they spent $11 million between Marcus Golden and Logan Ryan, and they got him on 1-year contracts. I mean, pretty good job by Dave Gettleman.
Go get Prince on a $1 million deal or something. Get us one more corner for some depth.
Yeah. Good stream, Tana. Can't wait for the season. Hope we have our team and staff for the future. You and me both, man. I think we're all hoping we got our team and staff for the future, and we're going to get a good litmus test week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we'll see where it goes from there. What's going on, Sadan? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. 8-8 or bust. It hurts too much to have another losing season in a row. I mean that's that's not my mindset going in, but yeah, you want to go into the year saying, yeah, we want to try to go in and win as many games as we can. And I'm not going to go in with a defeatist attitude. I'm going to give you guys my honest prediction. I got us pegged for 6 wins, but anything could happen. And like Bobby said, well, I'm telling you guys preseason that I think we're a 6-win team. That doesn't mean on game day, I'm not going to go into that game with my heart saying,
oh, yeah.
If we do what we're supposed to do, we can win this game. And that's the way I feel every single Sunday because it's true. That's the game of football. If you don't make mistakes and you force the other team to make them, you can win. And on any given Sunday, anybody can win. And that's what I love about football.
We go into the Ravens game 3-11 and we lose that game, I'm still going to be heartbroken. Like you said, every Sunday it's a new day, and I always go in with a winner's mentality.
Yeah. Blue Collar Man, thanks so much for love. I appreciate it. He says, "What's your opinion on Tana Afternoon Drive WFAN?" Blue Collar, I would love to be on WFAN. That would be fantastic. I may do some more of those midday shows. I've done a few of them. You guys seem to like those, so I may do those more during the regular season. I'll ask you guys. I'm going to definitely be live a lot more throughout the season for sure, being that there's going to be a lot more to talk about. So maybe one day we'll both be on WFN. Well, you're in Florida, so that wouldn't work out for you. They
need to bring some fresh blood. It would change that station for the better if they brought some people who aren't doing hot takes are doing their research. But I think they also, though, they're like, they kind of wish they could be where I won't pat ourselves on the back, but like YouTube podcasts, that's where it is. Radio's kind of dying. So I think we're both in good spots.
I think we could replace Joe and Evan, no problem. We're Giants fans for one. They're both Jet fans.
Well, listen, I said I have a winner's mentality when it comes to the Giants. I got a winner's mentality when it comes to me. I think I could be the best radio host in America. I won't be, but I believe I could be.
You have to, otherwise, you have to believe you're the best. Same thing with me. I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but you have to believe that I always want to get better, and I think that's what makes people successful at whatever they do. So. I completely agree with that. Nick says, read my comments. Okay.
We just did read my comment. Read it.
I just did, Nick. No, he said, will Bobby be at the Tainted Bad Dog Giants meetup? Well, we're not going to have a meetup this year because of the COVID. But, Bobby, I mean, in the future, plan on doing a lot of meetups. You're always more than welcome to come. I'd love to get a bunch of Giants YouTubers together for a Giants game. Absolutely. If you're more than welcome to come.
Yeah, we weren't going to like set up like a Talkin Giants meeting, but just be like, hey, we're going to be here. Let's do it. Obviously this year's different, but definitely want to do that in the future. And I know people DM me about that stuff all the time. So I know people would show up.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's something I definitely want to do a lot more with the channel in the future. Iceman says, is it David Sill's job to lose, rounding out the bottom half of the receivers making the roster? We both talked about him. We both had Sills as the fifth receiver. I don't think anything's definitive, but I definitely think I would say at least 80-85% chance he's on this team.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's not.
Yeah, I would be shocked as well. But guys, man, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. We've been live for about 2 hours. First off, I want to say thank you to Bobby for coming on. I really appreciate you on the channel. Definitely want to have you back on, or whenever you can. And you did a great job tonight, man. Great conversation. You got a great channel over there, great podcast. Once again, go on over there and sub up Bobby if you haven't done so. And man, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you to everybody for being here. I'm sure I'll be live soon, probably with Bad Dog in a couple of days. Maybe doing a Met game soon. I haven't decided yet, but thank you to everybody for being here. Really do appreciate it. You guys are the best. Can never say it enough. And of course, I'm going to let Bobby close it out.
Thanks for having me on. I hope I'm not screwing up some tagline you have at the end.
No.
But, I know you start up with stand up, so I'll finish with go watch this grounded out Game 7, tied at 68, and sit down.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it, man.
See ya.